I'm really excited that we've announced the 4 NASCAR National Series for our game. For the first time ever, we're going to feature the ARCA Menards Racing Series and the entry point for the career mode. Featuring all 4 series allow us to give the player a complete experience that somebody might make to become a champion.
So why having ARCA trucks, Xfinity and Cup is so important, especially from a design perspective, is we finally get to do what is a realistic career mode that somebody would actually follow in real life. Think about the drivers who started in ARCA, cut their teeth in ARCA, went then to trucks, got noticed, got to Xfinity, and finally made their mark in Cup.
So yeah, Todd and I spent a lot of time just talking about the feeling of what it would be like if you were a young kid and you're starting your grandpa's shop, and his shop was this like dirty old gas station, and he just kind of said, hey, you can use my shop, there's the tools, have at it. And then through that, you started to realize that you actually had some talent. And you worked your way up, and then you went from the shop to there was a pole barn or a metal building that's also on the property, and that's where you run your truck team. And then you start to get more sponsors, and you start to have more success. So then you move up to the Xfinity Series, and then at that point you can build your own shop. And you get more success there, and it just keeps steamrolling. And then all of a sudden you get to the point where you're in the Cup Series. And that's where we built the Taj Mahal of race shops.
In the career mode, you'll be tasked with making decisions on how to spend your time. And it's not all about just what you do on the racetrack. You're going to have to do things to build your reputation. And that might be charitable work or a movie opportunity. There's going to be things that your sponsors ask you to do. And you'll have to balance between building your reputation and your brand and being successful on the racetrack.
Having access to Dale Jr. has been amazing. We've never had the ability to work with a driver at this level before, and not just somebody who just comes in and plays the game and says, that's good. He's actually actively involved in helping design the game.
Designing out the career mode was a Herculean effort because you want to make sure that you have all the right details in there about what makes a NASCAR career really authentic. But at the same time, you don't want to make everybody have to go through all the minutia of managing a race team and the finances and the employees. So really, it's a nice balance, and I think we've pulled this off really well in NASCAR 25, where if you want to just concentrate as being a driver, you can do that while mildly being involved in some of the decision making. But if you want to go in there and manage every last little detail, you're going to be able to do that as well.
I feel like it gives them more of a perspective of how it actually works, right? Coming up through the ranks, deciding how to upgrade your vehicle, right? Those are decisions that you've got to make in real life. Do you want to buy a new set of shocks? I only have this allocated amount of money, right? Do I buy a new set of shocks? Do I, rebuild my engine? Do I buy a new set of tires? And those are the decisions that, like I said, I've had to make in my career, and to be able to correlate, that story and create, sort of your own blueprint in your career, I think is a neat aspect of the game.
One of the cool things about finishing a race in this game is going to be how your performance has resonated within the social media world. So it's not just going to be drivers who might be commenting on how you performed during the race on social media, but some of the most popular NASCAR social media influencers will be chiming in as well. Part of this game being all about the driver's perspective is the interaction that drivers have between themselves and their crew chief and their spotter. So that's something that we're really focusing on while you're in the car, while you're driving, while you're in the menus, making it feel less like a UI screen and more like an interaction between you and them.
So we've really put together the most amazing team that I can think of to build a NASCAR game. We've got decades of experience across many of us, across every platform imaginable. We've got laser scanned assets. We've got amazing driving physics. We've got literally a company that has been built on the foundation of being authentic and true to the sport. And you add all those things together, and it's really this recipe to make the best NASCAR experience possible.
For more information about the game, visit NASCAR25.com, where you can sign up for email updates and view more content, and be sure to follow us on social media at NASCAR25Game.
Tonight on Countdown to Green, we take a look back at the action from the action track. NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver Rajah Caruth stops by. And we take a look at how you're racing from home. All that and more coming up on Countdown to Green.
Hello and welcome to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. This is Countdown to Green, and from Richmond to Rockingham. For the first time in the series, we have an exciting race ahead of us. I'm your host, Camille Salazar-Hadaway, and joining me as always, we have Ryan Vargas and Alan Cavana. How are you two doing, Ryan?
Man, I am doing incredibly. I am so excited to see these next gens take on the Rock for the first time in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. It's going to be an absolute barn burner.
Absolutely. I mean, what a throwback. On the Cup Series, we were just at the throwback race at Darlington. This is even more throwback to go to a classic racetrack like the Rock for the first time, get us introduced to it for the races coming up there later on this month. It is going to be really fun to see what our drivers can do with it tonight here in the Coca-Cola NASCAR Series.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. As we know, last week was a little bit chaotic. Will it be chaos this time? Well, we'll have to see. But for now, let's check in with the College Series because, you know, we got that going on too, right, Ryan?
Oh yeah, and the College Series, as always, put on an absolute show at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the trucks. We saw a lot of chaos here, a lot of carnage, but Alan, I say it every week, but it's one of my favorite things to watch all these schools get represented, all these drivers fighting for some extra tuition money.
Absolutely, and it feels like the paint schemes get better every week. The action gets better. This is at Charlotte. Look at everyone. I mean, a big mess there on the front stretch. A lot of action because, look, there's a lot on the line, a lot to learn. A beautiful Michigan car. There's Ohio State out there. Natural rivalries. 5 wide, that's not going to work at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But the racing is also good because some of the best out there, Parker White, Steven Wilson, are running in this series as well, trying to earn some cash, trying to earn some college credit. And you can be a part of it and race against them, including a 3 wide finish. How about that, Ryan?
Yeah, Connor Yuroshak getting it done in a photo finish between Parker White and Steven Wilson. The Coke Series guys cleaning house in the College Series. But we have a paint scheme contest that ends tonight. If you want to learn all the information about getting your entry in and getting your paint scheme up for basically to get it on track, scan that QR code below, get those last minute entries in, and we could see that thing on the racetrack.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that you get that 500 credits as well in the iRacing swag bag. Again, production, we are waiting for our own iRacing swag bag, but we'll talk about that later. For now, I said Richmond was chaotic. Ryan or Alan, it definitely was.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, right from the start, unfortunately. I mean, there was chaos, and we thought it was going to be all night. Ryan, we had a few cautions at the beginning. It led to single-file restarts early. Then things kind of calmed down a little bit. We saw some good racing. I mean, it was short-track racing.
Yeah, I mean, typical short track stuff here, right? We saw a couple sends right there, a couple guys pushing and shoving through the field. But other than that, it was a pretty run-of-the-mill short track race. I mean, pretty much what you typically see at Richmond Raceway. But one of my favorite things about this racetrack, you see that right there, multiple lanes of racing. You see right there, Zach Novak all the way up at the top, just pushing that top lane, getting the top lane. Look at that drive off the corner. It's picture perfect, chef's kiss for Richmond Raceway.
Yeah, I love it. Look, good action going into the corner. Zach Novak had a great race leading a lot of this, pursuing Vicente Salas there, but it was like the Jaws music. Steven Wilson in the 77, like dun-dun, dun-dun. He was coming at some point. About halfway through the race, he makes the pass here. It wasn't foregone conclusion that it was over, but everyone had to chase him there. And then late in the race, Logan Clampett, Nate Stewart get together there. Our man Blake McCandless stayed out. No tires. And look, poor Blake. What happened there? Caused a little chaos after that. Not Blake, but that restart. Steven Wilson survived a bunch of late race restarts and just took it once again. What a season he's having, Ryan.
Yeah, Steven Wilson all year long has been the guy to beat. So that has me wondering, is this Steven Wilson's championship to lose? You have to understand, every single race that he has finished, he has won. Vegas, he was leading the race when he dropped out So, look, Steven Wilson's been cleaning house. He's been charting some uncharted territory here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And, man, if he could keep this momentum up through the summer into the playoffs, we're going to be seeing a historic run for Steven Wilson.
Yeah, that's one end of the spectrum. I'm looking at the other end as a championship already lost. It is panic time for our boy Nick Ottinger. I mean, this is a driver we're used to seeing in victory lane, a part of the playoffs, at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, in the championship 4. His best finish this year, 17th. His other finishes, 30th, 35th, 31st. And look, on Sundays, if you win a race, it changes your entire season. In our series, if you win a race, he's still 31st in points. It doesn't guarantee him anything. It's been a terrible start for Nick Ottinger. I don't know how he digs himself out, but he's got to start tonight, and that has to start really quickly, the turnaround. Not what we were expecting from such a big-name driver at a great team.
Yeah, this series has been throwing a lot of curveballs, a lot of unexpected, results as well. But we got a glimpse there of Zach Novak looking at the recap. And you know what? Let's check in with the 2019 champ, the driver from Travis Pastrana's Channel 199 Sim Racing.
My favorite hobby outside of video games is to watch the Chicago Bulls play basketball, as mediocre as they may be. My name is Zach Novak, and I'm from Clinton, Connecticut. This is my 9th season in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. The first NASCAR game I remember playing was NASCAR 09. A tip I wish I was given at the very start was that I was very loud and obnoxious and a young kid. And the tip that I wish I had was to just relax and live in the moment. Yes, I have been protested, probably a lot when I was very young and when I first joined iRacing. Not so much recently, luckily, probably 10 or more times. My biggest accomplishment has to be my 2019 eNASCAR championship. It was an incredible moment for me and my entire family.
Checkered flag for Zach Novak. He is your eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series champion.
My biggest motivation heading into 2025 is to prove I still belong and to win some races. This season looks completely different from when I started. The series has grown immensely since I got in at age 15 to now a 23-year-old. It's quite a different atmosphere in this series. To get to the top, what I need to get better at is being able to manage the end of the race a little bit better and be better than all of my competitors at the very end. The track I have circled on the schedule to win this year is probably Charlotte. I feel like I've had a chance to win that race for many years and I just haven't quite broke through, so that's the one I got circled. My tip for anyone trying to get into this series is to stay committed and learn. Learn from anyone that's willing to give you advice, because most of the time they have been through it and know what they're talking about and they're trying to help you. I want to be remembered as someone that was willing to help and someone that gave everything they had to try and win races on a weekly basis. The 2025 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion will be myself, Zach Novak.
Well, you heard from the man, Zach Novak, 2019 champion in the series. He's a veteran, 9 years in the series. And Alan, think about that. Think about how much change this guy has seen. Different aero packages with the Gen 6 car, and now hopping into this Gen 7 car and all these new tracks that he's being tossed at, and consistently being a figurehead towards the front, always a championship pick for a lot of teams.
Absolutely. If there's one thing I can appreciate, it's a driver from Connecticut, but it just shows you how much the series have changed and how deep the talent pool runs. I mean, we're talking 6 years ago, he was at the top of the mountain. All this new talent comes in, and he's making that climb once again. Just how strong the field gets every single year. It's not easy, even for past champions.
Well, you were talking about how strong the talent runs. Well, Alan, talent runs strong at home as well, because guess what? There's a lot of fans of iRacing that like to send in their rigs to us so we could have a look and showcase them on the show. This is Logitech. Show us your rigs. And our first one is from Mark Myers. Whoa, do you see that wall, Alan?
I love it. First of all, I love the paneling, and then over the paneling are all sorts of Matchbox and die cast, probably some racing champions, because this looks old school. That's a Kyle Petty banner up there. 5 monitors. We'll talk about the rig, and then he's got all that technology on the side. Maybe a little wire management needed there, but look, overall, that is a great use of a corner. Layered, I'll call that.
Yes, nice and layered. And our next one's from Jonathan Zen. Ooh, this one's sweet. A lot of panels. Ryan.
Yeah, I really like this rig here. This is a very clean setup. Got the curved monitors all the way around. Got that 4th monitor at the top there for some data, analytics, all that stuff. Got the formula wheel there, the oval track wheel off to the right there. You see that hung up. And an interesting note here, that dollar hung on the wall, that's the first dollar he made in sim racing. So really cool nostalgia there for Jonathan Zinn here.
This next one is from Haz. Another big rig.
Yeah, look at that. That is a monster monitor, a nice top monitor there as well. And what is that, a handbrake on the left? I mean, an oval wheel? That is interesting. I've never really seen one of that, how that's set up there. I mean, very clean. I love the wheel on there. It just looks very professional, very well done, very sleek, perfect.
I'm just amazed at cable management with that one right there. But
where are they? Yeah.
Where are the cables? Where are the in this one, pretty neat cable management from Jeffrey Majtakia. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Yeah, no, but Jeffrey here, he's got a nice setup here. He's got the red here, the championship red, very emblematic of the Coke Series championship contenders here. Nice jersey there, got Jordan on the wall up there, but I like that seat too. That is like the perfect combination of competitiveness while feeling a little bit comfy behind the wheel.
Velvet?
It just feels a little, high end. I was just about to say, a little high end. I'm loving this one.
Really cozy.
And our last one is from Jeremy Frew. Ooh. Do you see that
museum?
case?
I mean,
I know.
Yeah, look at that case.
Yeah.
That is just a beautiful setup. A Team Trackhouse fan. You got the hood up there on the wall, the Sunoco tank, and the big wrap monitor. This is just envious on so many levels. The die casts that are in there. Great job, Jeremy. You have put some work into that thing.
Yeah, we saw some good rigs, but remember, you don't need to be fancy. You can also put your rig right at your desk, and it still gets the job done. You just sign up for iRacing, and you're good to go. We see a lot of those here on our rig segment, so make sure to send your rigs in to us using the hashtag eNASCAR and tagging at iRacing and eNASCARGG. All right, we were able to check in with one driver from the series. Well, let's check in with another who's very, very familiar to all of us here at Countdown to Green. I'm talking Blake McCandless, driver for Junior Motorsport.
track I'm most looking forward to is Rockingham. I love that track. I can't believe they put it on the schedule. I'm so happy that they did. And it's the longest race of the year, so Rockingham by far is what I'm looking forward to most. My name is Blake McCandless, Raleigh, North Carolina. This is my 4th season working with the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series and first as a driver. As somebody who's had the privilege of watching these guys compete at a very direct level for a number of years. It's really special to be able to join them, and it's something I said on the broadcast all the time, that these guys are 1 of 40, and to be a part of that is really special. So it's a completely elite group of people, and it's really special to just be a part of that. My favorite sports team is Carolina Hurricanes. Go Canes. I think having a successful season largely comes down to just being able to be competitive, have a couple of shots to win races, and hopefully staying in the top 20 in points. These guys are the best in the world, and I'm not going to be overconfident, but I am confident in myself, and I think staying in the top 20, having a shot to make the playoffs and make this a successful rookie year. Favorite track I've been to is probably Daytona. It's just something about the vibe of that place that I just love. My biggest motivation heading into this year is just to be able to enjoy this. I've been able to watch this from a different perspective for a long time, so to be able to dive in it, I don't have many expectations in this. I want to be able to enjoy it, and this is something that, I hope will teach me a lot about myself, how I handle pressure, how I am able to go against the best drivers in the world. So that's just a motivation, is trying to continue to improve as a person, but also continue to improve as a driver. I want people to remember me as somebody who was honest, as somebody who tried to bring a lot of passion, whether it was in the broadcast booth or now as a driver, to sim racing. It's given me so much personally in my life and opened up so many doors to me that never would have been possible. So I hope when people think of me, they think of somebody who just truly loved what they did, race clean, race with respect, broadcasted with respect, all of those things. So I hope that's how I'm remembered someday in this space.
It's always nice to see when your colleague goes off and does other things that they're so passionate about. We're cheering you on, Blake. But I'm pretty sure he told me not to pick him for Rockingham. I'm just saying. But you know what? Let's talk about another driver, Alan, who is no stranger to Countdown to Green and also making waves in real world racing. I believe you have him on standby, right?
Oh, yeah. Come on. It's our friend. You all know him well. Rajah Caruth. If he's not behind the wheel of his number 71 truck in the Truck Series, he's behind the wheel of his sim. Rajah, I know you're busy, man. Thank you so much for joining us. How you doing tonight? Yeah, we got you.
Me on. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we're going to Rockingham tonight. First time for this series. I assume you've done some laps there. What can they expect tonight? What can we expect from this race, this track, and how it lays out for the eNASCAR guys?
Yeah, I think for me, thinking about Rockingham, there's a lot of similarities to your places with a lot of load, like Bristol, turn 3 and 4 in Texas, turn 1 at Charlotte, and steep banking, and that allows you to just carry so much speed, and you have to be really aware of how you're saturating your tires and how the vehicle loads. So should be an entertaining race tonight. Knowing how these races can get it, and maybe a little bit of carnage, but we'll see how things go. But should be exciting for sure.
Longest race of the year for these guys. What does that mean from a driver's standpoint, your mentality, how you approach it, some of that carnage, aggression? What's the length mean?
Yeah, I think with a long race, Alan, I think you just need to just have just the mindset of just making it live for a whole race and looking at it from an endurance perspective. You don't need to be the fastest early. You don't need this spot, right now, this lap, right? You've got 100 laps or so to make the most of it, right? And you can't take yourself out of it or make risks to take yourself out of it too early in the game. Whereas at the heat races at Richmond perspective, for example, or things of that nature, right? You've got a little bit more of an incentive to go hard early and take those risks. But with a longer race, right, it's no point. There's no stages. You don't get points like that. So you just got to be there at the end of the race.
We love that your story involves so much of this side of things, the sim side, in this community. How much does sim still play a role into what you do on Fridays and Saturdays in that 71 truck?
Yeah, I think for iRacing purposes, right, it's for me, it's just fun nowadays. I think, we have a lot of sim work that we do with GM at the Technical Center in North Carolina here. But I hop on the sim for fun. And with some of the new track updates, they updated Bristol, Vegas, and some of the NASCAR stuff, and that has gotten it, I think, pretty close to not only visually what it looks like, but ultimately closer to the feel behind the wheel. So it's an escape for me, but I can't get on it too much because then I'll start driving it like real life.
Yeah, well, and you're also really busy. You have a busy life on the track. Off the track, I just saw you walk in the halls of Congress, so you're busy there. I don't know, maybe politicking for the future, but also let's talk about the education
RPM
side.
Act, baby, yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that and the education work you want to do, especially with STEM and engineering and that type of education going forward.
Yeah, so we've got the Racing with Rajah program. We started with the support from iRacing, Microsoft, and GM, and essentially the goal of that is to just expose young adults to the world of motorsports, right? very rare to become a driver. I was very fortunate enough to have that opportunity, but the goal of the program is just to be to provide just entry-level information for those young adults in school to learn about racing, from not just the driving side of things, but engineering, marketing, business administration. I mean, really the whole nine. So that's really the goal of the program, is just to expose racing to the youth, and honored to do that with the support of people, like I said, like iRacing and Microsoft.
And don't forget the broadcasters either. We try to
Thank you guys, appreciate it. Sure.
No, you can teach them about that. The future broadcasters of the racing world. You have a big event coming up later in April. How can people get involved, or what do you want to see come out of that?
Yeah, we've got the Racing with Rajah Invitational, April 23rd. So I guess 2 weeks from tomorrow, if my math's correct. So you guys can put in work to try to join through the time attack process to be a part of the invitational race. It'll be nice to have an event, on the sim. That's kind of cool to participate in it. I mean, I've done all the NASCAR invitational races, some of the IMSA stuff, and obviously a little bit of the Ignite series and things like that. So to kind of have my own is really special, and super awesome to see interest from everybody, and hopefully it all goes smoothly.
Looking forward to it, Rajah. Thank you so much. It's great to have you still part of this community, but even better, giving back in many different ways in terms of the future. So good luck with that, and good luck this weekend in Bristol. We appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me.
All right, that was Rajah Caruth, guys. Always cool to have him on the show and join us back. And look, he graduated from this community. He never left us. You know what I mean? He's still with us, having fun.
He's still with us. He's
Very
still with
cool.
us, and he's just stacking on the accomplishments every time. It's just something new. I love to hear from it. And remember, he will be back during the race as well, joining Evan and Kenneth as well. So stick around to hear from him again. But Ryan, we are getting closer to the race, and we are here for the first time in the series. Tell us what we could expect from the track.
Yeah, so we're here, Rockingham Speedway. Fan favorite, a driver favorite. This place is 1 mile long. It feels huge, but no, it's only a mile long, and a lot of off-throttle time here. Baking in turns 1 and 2 is 22 degrees, while 3 and 4 is a bit steeper at 25 degrees. This place opened in 1965, and we did technically have a race here. Back in 2019, we had an exhibition race. Zach Novak was the one who got that done. We talked a lot about him tonight, so he's going to be one to keep an eye on as we get into this feature main event.
Yes, and Alan, you heard there, we did technically have a race, but not enough to give us enough trends for Rockingham. So let's talk about what we've seen so far in the series.
Yeah, we'll switch it up a little bit, just give you an idea of what's going on so far. Let's look at the front of the field. Parker White, he has 8 straight top 5s in this series. Think about that, how hard this series is. 8 straight top 5s. That dates all the way back to last year's playoffs, of course, defending champion, all the way back to the playoffs in Michigan last year in August. He's never been out of the top 5 since then. We'll see if he can continue that tonight. Yeah, that Parker White's pretty good. Race winners so far have an average starting position of 11th this year. Further back than I thought, but you look back to last year, the average starting position of every race winner was 10th. So we'll see what qualifying means tonight, but you can move your way up a little bit. That's what the numbers say. Who's doing well in qualifying? 4 drivers have an average starting position of better than the 11th I just told you about. Steven Wilson, Zach Novak, Vicente Salas, and Dylan Alt. That's 3 of the top guys. It shows you they got speed in qualifying. And Dylan Alt, look, he can get it done in qualifying, needs to close the deal during the race, but those 4 drivers really putting it on it in qualifying. Good to see there. 4 drivers with an average starting position of more than 11. We go back to Interlagos. It's the only race, this is interesting, this year where the winner led the most laps. It was a good battle early in this race, but once Steven Wilson got the lead, he took it on home and led most of that race. But the other races, not necessarily leading all the laps is what you want to do. We've seen more action toward the end, different winners, different leaders, and it's come out to a different winner. And then our boy, Steven Wilson. He has the best win percentage in series history at 16%. Think about that. All the drivers you can think of, 16% win percentage. With one more win, Wilson will already be tied for 6th all-time in wins. I don't see him ending that anytime soon. So the future is still bright for the former champion and 3-time winner this season.
Yes, and Ryan mentioned it earlier. There was a race before at Rockingham in the eNASCAR iRacing All-Star Exhibition race of 2019. Let's take a look.
Yeah, we talked about it leading up to it. Zach Novak getting the win. Really incredible stuff.
Yeah, I just like the old look of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to mention. But also, this was broadcast live on TV. So there was that pressure, even though it's an exhibition race. Drivers probably were very motivated to do well.
Yeah, look at that. Got the virtual goggles on there. Again, with the pressure of being live on television. You think back 2019, I know that's 6 years ago, but you just think that, wow, they really did this. You know, that NBC was able to commit to this, and it just gives you some perspective about how important iRacing has been, how important the eNASCAR Coca-Cola series has been, and for how long, and how long it's been on our radar, and that it keeps growing and growing. And some of the names, again, Zach Novak, who's racing tonight, was in this and putting on a show even back then.
Yeah, and this also was the year that he went on to win the championship. So not only was this an exhibition of the rising stars through the eNASCAR ranks, but he got to show out. He got to go out there and show to all the fans at home that he was the guy to watch that season, and he got it done here in this race.
It's going to be interesting to see how they compare to that race to now actually racing for real at Rockingham in the series. So we're just about a little bit away from the start of the race. But before we get to that, we have to talk about our driver picks, which is something that we do here where we pick a driver every race and we get points based on the driver's placement. Alan,
look at that number. That's a big number. Yeah,
Alan's in the lead with 185. And okay, Alan, you got your moment. I have to say, though, I think production tried to really do me wrong. They didn't calculate my points properly, and I got them on it. But for now...
You caught him.
I didn't catch him. I'm on to you. Production saying it's Sean and Cisco, but you know what? I think it's the whole team, so I'm going to add Drew in there, too. But you know what? Let's talk about our picks for Rockingham. Ryan, you go first.
All right. So we've been talking about Novak. We've been talking about Wilson all night long. Forget that. I'm going with my boy Blake McCandless. I took his seat here on Countdown to Green, and he is probably the most excited of anybody in the field. I think tonight is the night that he brings that Herb McCandless throwback. He's throwing back to his grandfather, that 1970 Plymouth Duster. So really cool throwback there. I know it's really special for him and huge night for him. So let's see if he can get it done. I want to see Blake up at the front.
Great pick. Look, Blake wins best paint scheme. I don't think he wins the race. That's because, look, call me whatever you want. Call me the heel, call me the villain, but just call me the winner once again. Because Steven Wilson is my pick, and I think he does it again and just keeps on collecting checkered flags.
Oh my gosh, Alan. I was going to go for that, but you know, Ryan's here. We're trying to shake things up. We're trying to keep things fresh. I'm going with Parker White for this one. We're going to see how it goes because it's really anyone's race. Rockingham, we don't know what to expect. And I'm just excited for what's ahead. Any last words for the drivers before we head in quickly? Ryan?
Man, you know, all I know is tonight's going to be an excellent race with 200 laps on deck tonight. It's going to be an all-out brawl from start to finish. How you manage your tires, how you find the speed in the track as the time goes on, as the track, the line continues to move. Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah,
Yes.
And as Rajah said, just be patient. Long race, be patient.
Patience is key in keeping that endurance alive. And you know what? For us at home and right here on Countdown to Green, we get to refresh right now before we head into the race. So stay tuned right after this break for Evan and Kenneth for Rockingham. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome to the Proving Ground. Welcome to Metal Crunching. It's all or nothing for 26 weeks of the year. Welcome to the NASCAR Xfinity Series, only on the CW.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition. Make it your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
Welcome to Truck Country, where sweat becomes fuel, bumpers become bruisers, and pedals become pedestals. Where a future is written, one lap at a time, and burned into history. Welcome to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Tried to drag me down, but look who's laughing now. Look who's laughing now. I believe in something that I can't explain. The wind is calling out my name. Let it rain on me. Put in the hours, and I'm not gonna wait in line. I'm gonna take what's mine for the world to see. You gotta take the lead. You gotta feel the fire.
To $500,000 makes a first-time regular season visit to one of NASCAR's most historic and beloved racetracks. From iRacing's virtual Rockingham Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to Round 5 of the 2025 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And we are happy that you are with us on another Tuesday night. As always, myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Kenneth Bueno. And KB, tonight we're going to crown a Segment 1 champion. We got some throwback paint schemes in the field. It's a good time to be with us on an eNASCAR Tuesday night.
What a time to be alive in eNASCAR. It's a great race tonight from Rockingham. And, you know, when we looked at the schedule when it dropped a while ago, a lot of people circled Interlagos, says that highly anticipated race, but a lot of people didn't really look at Rockingham, the only trip here that we have tonight in a points-paying format. This one is set to be a ton of fun. One of the longest races of the season, too, so it's going to be one that tests the discipline and the immersion for the drivers as they try to go for a playoff spot.
It's a fan favorite and a driver favorite alike. Let's hope that the drivers, though, don't look at this challenge through rose-colored glasses, just because this is a historic venue doesn't mean it's going to take it easy on you at all. So it is a serious fight on the line with a segment championship, playoff points on the line, and more. As always, for you tuning in, make sure to enter tonight's NASCAR Fan Rewards code. It is Rockingham 9KV. Enter that on your member dashboard. Lock yourself in 50 points. And again, it's week 5, but if you haven't signed up yet for some reason, you can do so by going to NASCAR.com/fan rewards or scanning the QR code on your screen now. Again, we'll be doing NASCAR Fan Rewards points all season long. We appreciate you being with us. Encourage you to be a part of that one as this season carries through. But there is a lot to cover tonight, but the drivers are trackside. So let's go down and take a look at your Coca-Cola starting grid from the Rock. And it is the William Byron Esports, number 25, and Nick Ottinger starting on pole position. He'll be flanked on the outside of row 1 by the Hayek Motorsports 47 of Dylan Alt. Then the Kanani Sports number 11 of Vicente Salas and the Channel 199 Sim Racing 199 of Dylan Duvall. They'll make up row number 2 in 3rd and 4th. Row number 3 will see the second of those Travis Pastrana headed 199 cars. That time, though, the 2 of Zach Novak. And to the outside, it is the BS Competition 89 of Jordy Lopez. That's P6.
William Byron Esports has Tucker Minter lined up on the inside of row 4 to the green flag, with FGRXL's Ryan Luza manning the number 12 Toyota Camry on the outside in position number 8. And then there's the hottest man in Coke Series competition right now. Spire Motorsports' Steven Wilson has won 3 of the first 4 races, trying to go 4 for 5 here in the season, with Parker White for the Atlassian Williams Sim Racing Group, defending champ, going to be lined up on the outside in position 10. Bobby Zelensky for the ERA Esports camp in the 22 rolls off inside row number 6, and then outside in position 12, the other end of the FGRXL camp, with Seth the Merchant in the number 14.
Back on row number 7, it'll be the ERA Esports Team 34, Michael Cozy Jr. That's the team headed up by Jesse Awuji and company. And on the outside, the Kansas City Pioneers have got the number 24 of Casey Kerwin. Row number 8, inside starter, the 6 Karma 19 of Eddie Kerner. And to the outside, it's Steve Latart's Latart Esports number 40. That's Connor Urashak. And on row number 9, it is the E-Racer 69 of Tyler Gary. I'm sure team bosses Parker Kligerman and Landon Castle watch it on. He's got a throwback we'll talk about later. He's next to the Jim Beaver Esports 15. That's Colin Keister, P18.
Donovan Strauss for the Atlassian Williams Sim Racing Group. Second race in his new number, the number 4, going to be rolling off in P19, with Blaze Crawford for Team Dylan Esports, the rookie driver this season, going to put it on the outside and just inside the top 20. Other rookies in row number 11, Quentin Warman in the 50 car for Hayek Motorsports. Got a good throwback tonight alongside Nate Stewart for Jim Beaver Esports, looking for a good run tonight from Rockingham. He'll roll off in 22nd place. Vegas Inferno has Michael Guest number 21 Chevrolet on the inside of row number 12, and then the first of the 2 Apex Racing Chevrolets, the 98 of Cody Bias.
Just behind them on lucky number row 13, it is the Latard Esports 36 machine. That's Kwame Scott. To his outside, the Spire Motorsports number 7 of Femi Olatunbosin. Row 14, the Kevin Harvick Incorporated number 62 of Matt Busa. He's next to the second of the E-Racer entries. That is the 42 of Logan Clampett. And through your top 30, inside of row 15, the Junior Motorsports number 8 of Blake McCandless. And on the outside, the RFK Racing number 6 of the Big Dog gets calling about it in 30th.
6 Karma's Daniel Falkingham rolls off from the inside of row 16, pair of top 10 finishes this season, with Graham Bolin for the Kansas City Pioneers trying to find some life in this early 2025 year. He's going to be on the outside in position 32. Malik Ray has the other Vegas Inferno Chevrolet on the inside of row 17. That's 33rd, with Timmy Holmes for the RFK Racing Camp on the outside in 34th place. Garrett Lowe, who is just hours away to flying to the location where he's going to be NASCAR Euro Series racing for BS Plus competition, rolls off inside row 18, and the Apex Racing 96 of Christopher Hill rounds out 36 on the grid.
Only 4 more. Row number 19. It is the Junior Motorsports 88 of Brian LaPrade. At Austin Dillon's car, the Team Dillon Esports 33 of Taylor Hurst. And final row on the grid, it is the Kevin Harvick Inc. 29 of Jimmy Mullis and the Kanani Esports 66 of Alexander Russell. Full field, 40 cars ready to go racing The last 6 drivers in the qualifying order on the grid did not put down a time at qualifying, and that's why they will start from the rear based on provisionals. Well, we mentioned we would see some throwbacks here tonight, and let's take a look at some of them. We'll kick it off with Dylan Alt throwing it back to the Kenny Wallace 23 Stacker car.
It is a gorgeous scheme for Dylan Alt, and for Hayek Motorsports, both of them have throwback paint schemes tonight. So not only Alt, but his teammate Quentin Warman. We'll talk about that later. Logan Clampett has the number 96 Landon Castle Gaunt Brothers Racing Cup car with run with the Carnomaly paint scheme. So Clampett throwing it back to one of the team owners of eRacer. It's beautiful stuff, Evan, and I think everyone saw Rockingham as that chance to go throwback racing and put some new paint schemes on their race cars. Lots of them look outstanding tonight.
Yeah, I like the idea of having our own throwback weekend, and Tyler Gary also in the throwback spirit. He's driving the boss man Parker Kligerman's 2019 Talladega Gaunt Brothers Racing Cup car. So both of the eRacer machines in on the fun here in this race. There's more, though, not just those 3 drivers getting in on it. How about Colin Keister, instantly recognizable, throwing it back to the 1988 Daytona 500 win for none other than Mr. Bobby Allison.
You know, Evan, I've seen a lot of paint scheme throwing back to this specific Bobby Allison car, and every single time it looks just as good. It's a gorgeous paint scheme for the Jim Beaver Esports camp, trying to cure some magic there. And how about Blake McCandless throwing it back to his grandfather, Herb McCandless, who took his 1970 Plymouth Duster that won the first ever Pro Stock NHRA US Nationals. So Blake riding with some family heritage behind the wheel of his Chevrolet, and, you know, arguably one of the best paint schemes of this race.
It's tough to beat, but you want to talk about Rockingham history. Nate Stewart bringing out the Curtis Turner throwback, first ever NASCAR Cup Series race winner here at The Rock, and that'll be the paint scheme for the number 5. And last but not least, Quentin Warman throwing it back to another iconic design. That one, Todd Bodine's number 35 Tabasco Pontiac. He's got it on his number 50 Chevrolet here in the field tonight. Well, as always, the third member of our broadcast team is James Pike. He's going to be checking in with the drivers all race long, and that includes with our pole sitter, Nick Ottinger, going to be starting from the number 1 spot in this race in search of race win number 1 on the season. And James is working on getting Nick Ottinger dialed up now. It has been Wilson domination, a 3-time winner over the 4 starts we've seen thus far. Only Colin Keister was able to break into victory lane. That was in Las Vegas back on February the 25th. So will we see these other big names, the Ottingers, the Duvals, the Novaks of the world, get in on the action? We'll toss things over to Mr. James Pike right now with your pole sitter.
The pole sitter this evening, William Byron Esports, Nick Ottinger. Nick, we know that Rockingham is a bit of an old-school racetrack that puts it in the driver's hands, more so than some other places. Do you feel like Rockingham suits your driving style maybe a little bit more than some of the other tracks on the schedule?
That's a good question. I would say an our number 25 Logitech G machine, it probably would. You got some tire conservation that you got to do, which is a little bit what you got to do at Dover. So got a lot of banking, a lot of aggressive, compression zones that we got to worry about. So yeah, I think it suits me pretty well. But name of the game here, 200 laps. Save your tires as much as you can. Make sure you got enough tires to use them at the end of the race. So excited to see what we can do in our 25 team.
If that Dover comparison holds any weight, that's a dangerous proposition for the rest of the field. 4 career wins in Coke Series competition for Nick Ottinger there, looking to carry that record over here to the Rock.
Looking to be the first race winner here at Rockingham in a points series contest. And over the last couple of weeks at Interlagos, at Richmond, we've been talking a lot about formats. Kenneth, we've had sprint racing, we've had heat racing. It's a little bit more straightforward as we take a look at the Logitech G race format.
Yeah, for sure. A lot more direct, and it's one of the longest races of the calendar. 200 laps around the Rock. So like Nick said, tire conservation will matter a lot. The different lines will come into play. Fuel strategy will come into marker as well. As we go a little over 320 kilometers. Pit road speed limit sits at 40 miles per hour, usually the same marker of pit road speed that we usually see. The 3 tire sets available, it's only interesting that we don't have more than 3. So the drivers will have to be a little careful when they want to decide to slap on some Goodyear Eagles. That pit window should get us to around halfway at 100 laps. But if we have cautions, if we have long green flag stretches, the strategy could open up much larger, Evan. So this one's setting up to be an all-time classic.
What's not to like? It is a iconic throwback venue, but a first in series history. You got throwback paints, you got a long race on the board, and of course a segment championship on the line as well, which could have big playoff implications. As always, happy that you're spending your Tuesday evening with us here on the iRacing Esports Network. The number 25 Logitech G Chevrolet of Nick Ottinger in control of the field for the first time in series history. Let's go racing at Rockingham. Trouble already. Salas gets turned. He could not get up to speed. And before they get to turn number 1, they're going to wad him up.
That is not what you want to see on the opening lap before you even get to the corner. And I was almost thinking they were going to stack it up, but I thought they were going to be okay. But turns out, Evan, it was not the case. Salas just got stacked up right behind the pole sitter of Ottinger, got moved out of the way from the stack up by Zach Novak, and then he just goes up into Ryan Luza, and then it just creates the domino effect that gets virtually everyone involved in that incident going into turn 1. We'll get a secondary look at it and just try to digest everything. I don't know if these are the pre-race nerves or what, but you see here in the restart zone, Ottinger fails to get started. Not sure if he missed a shift or maybe the rear tire spun out, but for Salas just gets stacked up behind. He gets tussled around by Novak, then by Luza, and then more drivers are in it. 6 Karma car in there. Casey Kerwin found his way in the mess, and perhaps, I believe, might have saw a beat of Steven Wilson or Femi Olatunbosin involved in that. It looked like Annie Kerner was in it as well. And so just a huge stack up there before the turn 1 area of the track. Evan, it is chaos.
Yeah, and your takeaway there was mine as well. The fact that it was Ottinger who didn't get going. That 47 of Alt, who was going to be scored as the leader, got ahead of the pole sitter. Even though it looked like Ottinger at least attempted to fire off first, just big tire spin or a misshift on the 25. And again, unfortunately for Vicente Salas there, wrong place at the wrong time. Did a good job of qualifying this race in 3rd spot, and he's torn up no more than a couple hundred feet into the race. A lot of drivers down for damage, some minor, some a little bit more severe. Salas, of course, in along with others. So it is not the start I think that a lot of drivers wanted for the opening laps of this one, James.
We've got Nick Ottinger here in the booth. Nick, wild initial start there. What happened from your perspective on that?
People are trying to roll into the start zone a little bit more speed than the leader some, and I'm trying just to make sure I got a good start. And ultimately, this worn out racetrack, you got some wheel spin. Leader has a lot of wheel spin just as much as everybody else, but he's more vulnerable to that, because he's not rolling into the restart zone like all these other drivers. So that's just the nature of playing games on the start and restarts. But just had some wheel spin and got hit when I was trying to shift to second and just added some more wheel spin. Just the nature of how you try restarting at Rockingham, it seems like.
Worn out racetrack will create differences and difficulties for all the drivers in this field.
Appreciate the insight, James. And because that caution flag comes within a lap, I guess I'll say, of the initial start, not even that, we'll go to the single file restart procedure. This will be implemented over the course of the race. At any point, if we get a caution flag immediately following any restart, they'll stretch the field out and they'll go at it single file. So the 47 of Dylan Alt, who assumed the race lead from the outside of the front row, now going to be the control car. Duval second. Ottinger slides back into the number 3 spot. And we'll try this one again, putting the opening 4 laps behind us. Dylan Alt, control car, outside line. Green flag, back in the air. It's clean up front.
Stacked up a bit from around 4th on back. Opens the door for Zach Novak. Dives to the inside of Jordy Lopez, who is one of those guys, Evan, that comes into this race probably with a little more fire underneath him after getting the pole and then having a penalty early on at Richmond sent him down, and he finished dead last in that race. Lopez going to be one of those extra hungry, and Ottinger is loose in turn 4, but he saves it middle, 3 wide, back to the stripe.
It is an old, worn out, and rough surface, and that 25 almost went around on his own. Caught the car, but not before some spots were lost. The number 2 machine of Novak gets by, so does the 77 of Steven Wilson, and it's been going the wrong direction for your pole sitter. Ottinger already down to P7, and he's not in the clear yet. Cars high, cars low as they try to navigate this challenging surface. Up front, though, the 47 of Dylan Alt pulling away. This is the battle for second. Jordi Lopez trying to make the outside work in the 89 car. Give it to him for P2.
And that's a line, Evan, that we'll be seeing used most of this race. That very top was prominent in practice and even a bit of qualifying. You run right up against that outside wall. You let the car roll through the center, and it gives you such great exit speed that you can use it momentum-wise to everyone else. There's a bottom look at the replay with Nick Ottinger just barely stepping out, and by that point of the racetrack, you have so much banking, so much load on the right front tire, but the car is carrying so much speed to where you can get back on the throttle and go right off firing from turn 4. So Ottinger perhaps got a little over-eager. The car stepped out as it's bouncing through those very treacherous bumps at the back end of this track, and it gets Ottinger for the slide. Thankfully, he saved it, but Ottinger's got to be a little careful now because those mishaps from the initial start to about lap 4 to 5, getting him a little out of whack.
It turns 1 and 2, bank 22 degrees, a little bit more down at this end of the racetrack, 25 degrees of banking between turns 3 to 4. You go on board with Blake McCandless, was one of the picks on Countdown to Green, and it's true, there may not be anybody that was more excited about coming racing here at the Rock than formerly our very own Blake McCandless, and he took advantage of not being in the early accident. Started 29th, but is already up to 13th. Again, a lot of those spots gained because other cars that evolved in the opening yellow had to come down pit road. He has not had to do so. So step number 1, keep the car clean. So far, so good. As you can see him working the wheel, almost sawing at it at kind of an old point. Just trying to make sure he can feel the car and get it grounded through the corners, and maybe a little bit smoother on the turns 1 and 2 end of the racetrack than it is down on 3 and 4. Single file up the road in front of him for a moment, and then here you'll see they'll spread high and low, a couple of different lanes in play early on.
Yeah, the discipline of running Rockingham, specifically in McCandless' sake, you know, with the cars in front and behind him, is just running the bottom until that lane starts to get a little slick. With the oval refresh, you put so much energy down in the bottom lane for so long that it slickens up, and you got to look for the grip higher up on the racetrack. So while you see maybe a couple drivers go way up near the outside wall, you'll see way more of them do that once we step into a longer green flag stretch, because once you put enough area and energy into that bottom lane, the grip is no longer going to be there. So you want to go up high where you can use a little more of the right rear and the right front tire, and it's working in the battle between P3 and P4. Tucker Minter under fire quite a bit from the Steven Wilson car, and Evan, Steven has been on a tear so far in 2025, trying to match Keegan Leahy's tenure for all-time wins at 13.
And we mentioned off at the top the fact that the segment number 1 championship is on the line here tonight. There's a live look at the segment 1 points right-hand side of your screen. Right now, Steven Wilson, dead heat with the number 2 of Zach Novak. Again, you might think, how's that possible? He's a 3-time winner, but remember, DNF that had a connection issue and cost him several spots in the second race of the year into Vegas. What is on the line for this segment championship? 5 critical playoff points that you can carry into the postseason. Plus, I think it's a $3,000 prize as well. That's not too bad either. So this regular season split up into 3 different segments. And there it is again there, those winnings, both cash and points-wise. So the first of 3 segment champs that we'll crown over the course of the season is going to be decided right here tonight. And Steven Wilson won the Segment 3 championship last year, so success in the segments, not something uncommon to Steven Wilson.
Yeah, and he came into this race 3rd out of the top 3 group of drivers that were going in for the segment win tonight, and it was a 5-point spread from Parker White, Zach Novak, and then to the car you're watching right now in Steven Wilson. So things were razor thin, and it was obviously helped by Wilson's wins, but when you got a guy like Parker White not finishing a race this season outside of the top 5, and then Zach Novak, who over the last couple of weeks has really turned things up. Very strong car at Richmond, where he came home in 2nd and was one of the best cars before Wilson showed up inside the final 18. We'll keep an eye on those two. Going to be really close.
And happy to bring a special guest up into the broadcast booth with us. He was hanging out on Countdown to Green, but we got Rajah Caruth joining us now. Raj, you got a copy?
Yeah, you got.
We got you. I see you getting your camera turned on.
You guys hear me?
We got you. You got us?
All right, cool. Yeah, I don't know why it wasn't camera wasn't on, but yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for sticking around a little bit. We appreciate you giving us some insight on Countdown to Green. We've got some things we'll talk about, and I'll get to those points first in a moment, but we're watching this race. Cup cars at Rockingham on the sim. I mean, it's a pretty fun combination, and all the drivers in this series have been juiced for it. Have you taken the Cup car to the Rock here on the sim? It seems to be pretty challenging even for some of the best so far.
Yeah, I did a fixed race, one officials one here, I think sometime at the end of 2024, and I went like 20 laps, and I just was out of control. So, I mean, you saw with Nick Ottinger there on the first laps of the race. Obviously, he got kind of right in the back of coming to start the race, but even getting up to speed by yourself, it's easy to be out of control with here, especially with how old the surface is on this version of Rockingham. It's really just hard to manage your tires, hard to manage your rear grip, and keep the tires on it as you run long. It'll be interesting to see. I've seen Jordy really run up higher most of the start of the race, same with Tucker there in fourth, and I'll be curious to see how that affects the length of their or the longevity, I should say, of their cars as this race goes on. Just because typically on iRacing, if you run the top at a lot of places, it'll just burn your tires up more. So kind of working at the opposite of how things usually work. So I'm interested to see that, but good racing going on so far. Good brews to work from, and fun to watch.
Well, that sounds like the stream of consciousness of somebody who's got Rockingham on the mind. And, of course, you're running full-time in the Craftsman Truck Series this year. The trucks will be making a return to Rockingham. So I guess we'll pivot from the action here on track with the Coke Series drivers and then to you and your fellow Truck Series drivers. What's that kind of chatter been like? What's the excitement looking like as you guys get prepped to head here not too long from now?
Yeah, I'm personally hoping we get a little bit more degradation in the racetrack. It looks like the pavement looks similar to the repave of like the exit of turn 2 at Darlington, in terms of the same material it's used, and it's got the same kind of pearly, sandy sparkle to it. So that tells me it'll fall off a good amount. So I'm pretty excited to see that, because at the test right in January, we were, mostly wide open. The Fords were wide open at Rockingham, which, as you can see, running wide open at a 1 mile racetrack is hard as is, or dang near impossible. So it'll be a lot of grip for sure being a repave, but hopefully it's a fun race, and make sure you get your tickets to race the Rock and come back with NASCAR to the racetrack for Easter weekend. So pretty excited to see that.
See, you mentioned the test. I know the sim is a big part to both the iRacing service and, of course, the manufacturer stuff for prepping for a race. Because there's no recent truck history outside of the test, right, to look back on, what has that process looked like prepping here for Rockingham compared to a Charlotte or some of these other racetracks where you guys go to year after year? And how has the sim kind of been a part of that?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, right, like you said, it's the old version of the Rock. So, and it's been on the service for as long as I can remember. So I've definitely have driven on this track since I first got on the sim. So before we went to the test, I really didn't touch it, to be honest with you, just because I knew the repave was going to be completely different, and that proved to be true for me. So as far as the other places, I like to run the big tracks. I like to run the plate tracks on the sim, just because it's something that I can really draw us parallel to for the truck stuff with the side draft and some of the stuff that's on the next gen. That's the only thing that's really close to how any car handles in real life from an in-traffic perspective. So definitely just love to work on the sim, or use the sim to work on my racecraft and situational awareness more than anything. And it's fun. It's fun at the end of the day. I enjoy running. I've been running a lot of the road stuff lately, so a little bit of Porsche Cup, a little bit of Super Formula Lights, and trying to diversify, what I've been driving, but always an oval guy at heart.
You were saying that you were a road racing fiend. That's what I heard when we were before Countdown.
Not very good, but not very good.
It's still fun. But Rajah, you're one of the younger drivers in the Truck Series, but you're already looking to make an impact outside of the track. And that turns me to listening about the Racing with Rajah and the Microsoft STEM curriculum that you're putting on together. How much does that mean to you to put that program together and try to bring in more young adults and younger people into the sport and get them into the STEM side of things too.
Yeah, Kenny, it's really just kudos to my dad for really getting the idea rolling, and obviously something we're all passionate about is just education and you know, lowering the barrier of entry as we see somebody wall riding there a little bit. To get people involved in racing, not even just from a driving perspective, but whether it's engineering, from the broadcasting side of things to marketing, race operations, really the whole nine. So that's the goal behind the program, just to expose young adults to racing. Not necessarily looking for the next driver, right, because there's so few and far in between, and I'm pretty fortunate to be able to do it, but otherwise just hoping to provide exposure at the end of the day.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how that program can continue to grow, and we're looking forward to the Racing with Rajah STEM Invitational coming up on April 23rd. But Rajah, we'll let you get out of here. We know you got a lot going on. We appreciate the time, and again, best of luck as the rest of the 2025 racing calendar rolls on.
Yes, sir, of course. Thank you, guys.
Rajah Caruth on the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, of course, driving full-time in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series this year for Spire Motorsports. And, well, the way the Spire 77 to Stephen Wilson's been doing here on Tuesday nights, I think him and the rest of the gang have had a lot to cheer for over the course of this season. The 96 car of Christopher Hill started this race way back in the number 36 spot. He's running top 10 right now. He is by far and large your biggest mover at the moment, although he just had one spot taken back for the moment. Nick Ottinger and Dylan Duvall in a battle for position with him.
And Evan, he was in a dogfight with Colin Keister. Those two were side by side for several laps, and then in came Colin Bowden, then showed up Nick Ottinger, and now is Dylan Duvall and Kwame Scott in the background. So the battle between two quickly progressed into a battle between 5 or 6 cars. It's just magical to see the different lanes used here at Rockingham, and great stuff for Christopher Hill. I mean, one of those drivers who's a rookie in this series, and that's already a daunting task between trying to put your name out there amongst a group of heavy veterans and drivers who have found a lot of success in this series. And with 17th, his best finish so far at Vegas, looking to best that here tonight at Rockingham, and it's looking good so far.
Yeah, and he's not the only one who's up big, as Christopher Hill's made 26 positions up. Colin Bowden has made 23 in his own right after starting this race in 30th position. Bowden now running in the number 7 spot for RFK Racing, the BuildSubmarines.com Ford Mustang. So a couple of drivers from back in traffic taking advantage of being able to avoid the early incident and really doing a good job as we look to stretch our wings and run on a green flag stretch here. Up front, haven't missed anything. It is still Dylan Alt who has led every single completed lap of this race to this point, but his gap has been bigger at times. Jordy Lopez, P2, has been looking on and off as we talk with Rajah, and right now that 77 is Stephen Wilson behind him, maybe being a bit more of a disruptor. There's a look on the board with your top 2 drivers, and up top you're looking off of the back of that Sunny D car leading the race.
Yeah, that gap, Evan, has meandered around 1 to 2 tenths of a second between Lopez and Alt, and Dylan has been a underdog so far this season. Hayek Motorsports has had a great start to 2025 between Quentin Warming having a good start at Daytona and Las Vegas as well. Dylan Alt having 3 top 10s over the first 4 races. He's definitely have a lot of momentum on his side, but obviously lots of pressure in the rearview mirror, and it's going to be interesting to see how the different lanes are of use, because Wilson has been a little more faithful to the inside and middle of the racetrack, while Alt and Lopez took a little bit on the bottom, but then immediately migrated to the very top near that outside wall. And as these tires continue to wear down through this long stretch, you got to be really careful about what that right front is telling you, because you get inches away from that outside wall. You make one mistake too fast into the center of the corner, and you're up into the wall. You get sucked in there, and then all of a sudden, second and third will start taking over the spots, and you'll lose a ton. And like we saw from Nick Ottinger, 1 or 2 mistakes could easily get you back in track position in a venue that many drivers have said, Evan, is very hard to pass at.
And you've got Stephen Wilson's on board in the Tucker Minter lean cam, bottom right of your screen, as we slide back from 1 and 2 to take a look at the drivers in 3rd and 4th position. Tucker always seeming to try to will that car to rotate through the corner, and they're both taking very different lines right now. Down in 3 and 4, Wilson on the bottom, Minter way up onto the outside, trying to spool that thing up. And how about 2 challenges at once? Minter to the inside of Wilson for 3rd. Up front, it is Lopez to the inside of Alt for the race lead. Not going to be able to make it stick on the bottom. He'll tuck back in line, but Jordy Lopez is far from done. and Dylan Alt going to have to start thinking about how he can play defense. One more reminder for NASCAR Fan Awards members, tonight's exclusive code is Rockingham 9KV. Enter that on your member dashboard. Earn 50 points for joining us on today's race. And again, if you haven't signed up yet, NASCAR.com/fan rewards is where you can find all of your information on that. And of course, as we reach the end of segment number 1, KB, a lot of resources as well here with the Coke Series.
Yeah, ton of stuff with what the Coke Series is putting on right now, and the fight for the $3,000, the fight for the points. And to find more information on everything eNASCAR, go to eNASCAR.com and get a look at it now. Between this series, look at the College iRacing series that has put on great racing. I mean, a 3-wide race for the finish at the line at Charlotte Motor Speedway not that long ago. Phenomenal stuff on the eNASCAR side of things. And I think the racing here over this long green flag run, Evan, has been phenomenal. We see the battles continue to either get further separated or crunch together like we're seeing on the outside of the top 25. I'd say it's a bit surprising, Evan, that we're seeing the segment leader before tonight's race, Parker White, be as far back as he is, but he's in a dead heat fight with Michael Cozy Jr., Connor Euroshak up the road, and things are really starting to crunch in together as these tires wear down.
And it's an unfortunate break. Parker White started in a good position up inside of the top 10, but he was one of the drivers who had to come down pit road, presumably with some sort of damage from the lap number 1 accident. And speaking about pit road, some cars in, it's Christopher Hill at lap number 46. Seems like it would be off sequence. We'll see, though, as he'll go right side tires on the number 96 Chevrolet. 4 tires at fuel is the call for Christopher Hill, just shy of 1/4 distance through tonight's 200-lap contest. And when we looked back to see Parker White, you could see plenty of action going on in the midfield for position. Those actions also still going on up front in the battle for the lead and others. We've seen the Alton Lopez battle. Minter and Wilson have gone at it. Bobby Selensky's had a little bit of a quieter existence after starting in 11th. He's driven his way up to P5 and has kind of no immediate threat. He's enjoying his current track position. A little bit further on back, that's the 3 of Blaze Crawford, the Coca-Cola Zero Sugar Machine, right now in a battle with Daniel Falkenham. That's for P15.
And for Crawford, good start to his rookie season in the Coke Series. 2 top 10s, including a last race at Richmond with a 9th place effort, 8th place at Las Vegas. And we talk about the success of it from the likes of Quentin Warman. Blaze Crawford has done really good stuff. And then a couple cars back is that 8 machine, a very special scheme for Blake McCandless, throwing back to his grandfather Irv. He's going to the inside of Falkenham now for position 16. He's also a rookie that's trying to find a bit of momentum in his rookie campaign. Got a top 20 at Richmond. So, and you see these guys so fast, and I mentioned earlier the daunting nature of trying to put your name out in a series like this. These guys have been around for several years trying to move up through the ladder to get into this spot, and Crawford is making good use of it to 15th.
As we go on board, let's earn our rookie stripes. Why not virtually as we go on board? This is the Coca-Cola onboard camera. A good perspective there, but it was trouble up front for the 89 of Jordi Lopez Jr. was running in the number 2 spot. We had seen time and time again, tried to make a move on the inside of Dylan Alt, and Kenneth, that almost all fell apart about a lap and a half ago.
Yeah, and the accordion effect was kicking in through the top 3. Wilson had put pressure, he fell back, and all of a sudden, Tucker Minter was right on the rear bumper of that 89 BS Plus competition Chevrolet, and Lopez found a bit of pressure. He looked to the inside, and through the apex, just barely made contact with Alt's number 47 as the leader also got into the outside wall. Here's a look at it. Lopez looks down low. He thinks he has enough momentum to get down there to the quarter panel, but he just gets too eager into it, slides up into alt side, and then goes sliding in 1 and 2. A great save for Lopez, but like we've said earlier, mistakes can really cost you at a track that's so difficult to make moves at. And now Lopez dropping back to P6 has to re-engage and get himself refocused as Tucker Minter now putting up as the second challenger to Alt's battle for the lead.
You'll see if the 97 now could make anything to work up front. Dylan Alt had been under pressure from Jordy Lopez for the better part of 20-30 laps. And that 47 was able to run that defensive line or preferred lane and be able to stay ahead. Curious if Minter is going to be able to bring anything else to the table in that battle. Slotted back to this. This is all for about 13th position on back. Femi Olatunbosin, Graham Bolin lead of this group, but center of it all is that 8 car of Blake McCandless and going the wrong way on the bottom. The 14 car, DeMerchant had the advantage at the stripe. Might have got a little bit of a touch, though, from Cozy that time. Center of 1 and 2. Give one of those spots back to McCandless. You can score him now up in the number 16 position, and now he'll go to the very outside.
And you got to think, Evan, with this race and how long of a green flag run we've had as these tires continue to, degrade over the course of this run, how desperate are you willing to be? How aggressive do you want to be to make these passes? Are you willing to use up the car in front of you a little bit with some contact, or are you willing to set it into a corner and hope that it sticks, whether on the bottom or slinging from the outside? It's what we're seeing mostly around this top 15 and back half to the top 20, because a bulk of these guys have either gained 10 or plus more positions in the field or have just kind of hung around where they've been to start. So it's a really healthy mix of drivers trying to find their way, and McCandless is in the thick of it all. There's Cozy Jr. to the inside, and how about up front? The first proper challenge for the race lead decided quickly. Tucker Minter to the head at lap 59.
So I wondered aloud, what would he bring to the table that was different? And he just full committed to the inside, cleared the 47 halfway through the corner, and never looked back. And after leading the first 57 laps of this race consecutively, Dylan Alt now finds himself back in the number 2 spot. And what can the Logitech G entry of Tucker Minter do up front? If that 97 is the better car, can he try to gap that 47 and lead a little bit, courtesy of Minter? Keep an eye on those intervals on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, mid-pack, it is still chaotic in all of this. Christopher Hill and others trying to take advantage of maybe some tire differences. 3 wide for a brief moment, as that number 96 car, who we saw down on pit road about 13 laps ago, is trying desperately to find his way through this hornet's nest on the bottom. 3 wide again now on the exit at turn 4.
You know what this is, Evan? Pandemonium through the mid-pack. They are all over just trying to find an upper hand, but at the moment you see that long line of cars up to the outside wall. That's where all the speed is, because of this long run. You put enough momentum on the bottom, it slickens up, and now everyone's going up high like we saw in the practice session earlier on this evening, and now we're getting pit stops from the front group. Here is Steven Wilson, followed by Bobby Zelensky in, and sort of interesting to see how Christopher Hill cycles in all this with his early stop, but 2 of the drivers inside the top 5 are in this time.
Christopher Hill pitted just shy of lap 50. That was, again, about quarter distance through the race. If he keeps his stints at that length, you're looking at a 3-stop strategy if he wants to keep those intervals the same. Now, though, in the 60s, drivers coming down to the pit lane, maybe a little bit closer to a 1/3 split and a 2-stop strategy. We'll see if more drivers start to come down pit road in rapid succession. So far, we've only seen about 4 total cars pit under green flag conditions, and you can see that 89 machine down there now. Lopez, Mullis is down there also. Wilson and Zelensky just got off of the pit lane about a lap and a half ago. But up front, Tucker Minter, no signs of him coming down pit road, and this battle in the low teens continues to rage on. Curious if anybody in this group might modify their strategy to want to get away from this gaggle.
And what's more interesting here is that you watch this battle as close as it is, and you think from a glance, these guys must be driving super aggressively. They may be pushing their race cars to 150%, but the realistic answer is that these guys, for the most part, have been trying to save that right front tire and save their Goodyear Eagles overall. We mentioned how Christopher Hill made the early pit stop. You can make it 100 laps on fuel, but it's the tires that really wear down so quickly that you are basically forced to come down earlier than you like. So everyone crunching up together, just a product of how much tire wear we've seen and just a battle of who can save the best out of the group. There was Daniel Falkingham on pit road. A quick look at the pole sitter, Ottinger coming in. So now past lap 65, calling card for everyone to make it down and at least try to keep these wheels on the road, because it's really tough at this juncture.
Two more answer the call to action. Clamp it. Warman and White down pit road for service. Seth the Merchant saying over the radio that he'll be coming down to the pit lane as well. He's one of the drivers in this big group. Look for the kind of black and white number 14 on the inside of the racetrack. There he goes as he dives off to pit lane. Smooth transition down to pit road speed of just 40 miles an hour here at Rockingham. And there is more. Briar LaPrade also down pit road. Again, this is pretty much right on the money for a two-stop strategy. And who is down next? Still Minter up front, continues to lead this race.
You know, you're thinking, Evan, that if you're coming down pit road now from the front, you don't want to be involved. And there goes Femi. Gets slammed from the back by Taylor Hurst entering turn 4. And that's the exact situation I was worried about. Everyone clammed into such a short real estate space that someone was going to find trouble, and Femi, who was just on the braking marker to enter the pit lane at 40 miles an hour, Taylor Hurst was on the inside going through and didn't catch it enough time. Yellow flag out for just the second time tonight at lap 69.
And our producer knew that the 7 was coming down pit road, so you'd like to think the rest of the field knew. Femi let them know in chat that he would be coming down pit road, and it looked like kind of a combination of two things. We'll wait for the replay, and we'll take a look at it here in a moment. But that 7 car, to me, Kenneth, looked like it was still on the racetrack in a position where all the other cars that had been coming down had already been able to get to the apron. So I think it's a combination of two things. I think that 7 either got on the brakes a little bit late, or it kind of shot back up the hill. Maybe the handling was off. And then it could also be true that the driver behind him that got into him, the 33 Taylor Hurst, was 3 wide and could not yield the position. I just think that 7 would have wanted to be on the apron quicker and maybe avoid it, but let's watch.
Yeah, you'll see that blue and black number 33 get to the inside. He's already 3. There's Steven Wilson on fresh tires, and there's just nowhere to go for Hurst. I mean, Femi is just trying to get to the apron. Hurst, I think, believes that he can get up the racetrack in enough time that he will avoid Femi, but Femi's still on the racing surface by the time you get to those 3 hash marks at the bottom end of the speedway, and so Hurst sees the 7 slowing down. He can't go up because he'll tank slap Steven Wilson and cause an even bigger wreck, so nowhere to go for Hurst, and unfortunately, he's on the unlucky end of things. Hurst has had a rough season to start, made even rougher by this crash.
And that's where you got to rely on the spotter and the rest of your team on the radio, where if Femi Olatunbosun is said on the radio, I'm coming down pit road, then do you need to make that 3 wide move when it happens, right? Can you stay in line behind McCandless? I know it was a bit influenced, to your point. That 77 to Steven Wilson was kind of the wrench in all of that, who kind of made it 3 wide, and the 33, again, ended up low. And even if that 7 gets to the apron quicker, I still think you're going to end up on a collision course there, and it's kind of the Swiss cheese model of how these incidents happen. It's not one thing, but 2 or 3 layers of, I'm not going to call them mistakes, but circumstances happen in sequential order, and that's how you end up with an accident. So we've got yellow flag number 2 on the afternoon. So all of the race leaders came down pit road for service, and they're all going to benefit by having not pitted already, because for the drivers who came down under green flag conditions, Kenneth, they were all off of the lead lap. They had not worked their way back to the lead lap yet. So there is no cycling through to the race lead for the likes of Wilson and Zelensky. It is the race leader at the moment of yellow, Tucker Minter, who is the race leader getting ready for the restart. So tough break for some fast cars. We'll see what the likes of Ottinger, Lopez, Wilson, and others can do, because they now find themselves way back and in some pretty heavy traffic. Just past, though, the 1/3 distance marker, still 129 laps to go. Green flag back in the air.
And what a jump by Tucker Minter, being able to get out so quickly by at least 2 to 3 car lengths as they come through turns 1 and 2. And you got to be really careful. Be very, very tender on the right foot gas pedal, because things can really get dire when the cold tires kick in on a rough surface like this. Now we look at all going way up high, trying to fend off Zach Novak. And for the first time, Zach Novak is going to go inside the top 3, looking to get to Minter, but not enough to beat Alt there out of turn 4.
And Minter enjoying the gap that he was able to build as the challenge comes for P2. Zach Novak trying to clear Dylan Alt on the inside. Was about a half foot from doing it in turn 2. And then the banking advantage in the run on the outside puts Dylan Alt now right back nose to nose. Bowden watching on from 4th. Who does the 6 car go with? He'll go to the outside and follow the number 4070 car through. That looks like the right decision as the iRacing drone hovers above, and you can see how much speed that outside can carry off of 2 and down the backstretch.
Yeah, it has so much momentum, specifically here in 3 and 4. A wider radius, so a lot more speed you can carry off of the banking, but drivers are getting a little too close to that outside wall. Now here comes Bowden on the inside look for second. He's got it in the send to turn 1. And how about Colin Bowden, the way he's been able to drive this race tonight after starting in P30. He's had a 27th place finish twice this season. That's still his best finish of the year thus far through 4 races. And now in race 5, he is turning up the heat now into P2.
Doing a good job and continuing to work his way through the field. Again, started back in 30th position, but has been so good in race conditions. Does the charge stop here, or does he have something for Tucker Minter, who has led the last 18 laps consecutively after Dylan Alt opened the race by leading the first 57 in a row? And there's a look. Colin and Colin show. It's Colin Bowden, P2, bottom left of your screen. Colin Caster, bottom right, in the number 5 spot right now. And what's Colin Bowden got on the background? Is it the Masters? I know it's Masters week coming up soon, so he's got golf on. That's a good choice.
All right, it's Masters week. You know, I saw Live Golf was down here in Miami not that long ago, so, you know, kind of getting into the golf spirit overall for me. But I guess we're going to have a segment at some point of it of what is Colin Bowden watching. He's always watching some kind of different sport. You know, I remember one of the last times he was watching a hockey game, so that was pretty fun. But Bowden's more focused on what's the task ahead of him, and that's getting around Tucker Minter. He's been nearly there to the right side or the left side of Tucker Minter's number 97 Chevrolet, and he may get another good look here out of turn 4. He's been able to find enough momentum to slide underneath, but not enough to the apex to be able to fully complete that pass for the top spot as you get a look through the top 10. How about Blake McCandless? Was in the thick of things to the top 15, and now is there on the bottom as here comes Bowden finding some success. Can he get it done through 3 and 4?
We saw Jory Lopez try early in this race to get around Dylan Alt on the bottom. Couldn't do it, and in one swing of the bat, how about that one? Colin Bowden inside in 3 and 4. It is his new race leader at the end of lap number 79, and he's enjoying that one. He's out in front behind the wheel of the number 6 Ford for RFK Racing. And now if you're Tucker Minter, what do you do? He knows we're talking about him. What do you do? Can you hang there in the number 2 spot? Remember, Dylan Alt got passed for the lead. He trickled down to 3rd. Minter has been in some dirty air before. How can he hang in relation to the leader, or is Colin Bowden going to have an opportunity to open things up? This battle right here, tail end of the top 10. Urashak going the wrong way. The 40 dives in line. McCandless gives him a shunt into turn 3 and drives underneath him. This is for 7th and 8th position.
And mind you, Evan, a ton of these guys started this race below the top 15 in this group, so they're sort of telling the field top of the morning to anybody who thought it was Betty by. There goes Kwame to the outside. McCandless has been faithful down low. He just cannot complete the pass, and it's a really tough spot when you have a freight train like that up high. You got to be so patient and just thinking that you're assured in the way you're doing things. And Dylan Duvall, who's at the front of this thing with a brand new paint scheme, says new scheme, new me, but also the same me, by the way, going into Rockingham.
Yeah, not a throwback, but using the full force of the iRacing spec map abilities with that chromed out 199 track racer simulation on the side of it. Good looking ride for the Channel 199 sim racing machine of Dylan Duvall, and the car always looks better when it's running inside of the top 10. That's what he's doing right now. He's been one of the few drivers, after all of the chaos and the pit strategy and the ill-timed yellows, one of the few drivers who has started inside of the top 10 that actually continues to run inside the top 10. Only he, Novak, Alt, and Minter still running up here in the lead group, who qualified inside of the top 10 a little bit earlier on. Just behind him, you got a pair of Sunoco entries. That's the 40 of Urashak, trailed by the 36 of Kwame Scott. Sunoco amongst those Camaros that are on the outside lane. Both of these drivers up big over the course of this race. That number 40 machine, Urashak, he's been able to work his way up 9, and then even more impressive, Kwame Scott up 17. So a lot of big movers as we get closer to halfway home.
Yeah, this is the point of the race where you're going to start to really put in the effort on this back half, where it's going to matter a lot more in track position. You know, thinking that we're going to get a long green flag run in, and with the way these guys have handled this season, it's been a bit of a struggle for that Latart Esports camp to find that momentum. You know, they had a bright spot with Connor Urashak getting a top 11 finish in the first race of the season at Daytona, but overall, they're still getting their bearings together between Scott, the 10-year driver, a little bit more of a veteran, and then Connor Urashak, who's just stepping in to his first Coke Series season. So it's really good to see Latart Esports making use of this moment and counteracting on McCandless's attempts to make a move down low and having a top 10 run here early in the run. Good sign given how difficult it is to pass. They can hold on to it.
Well, and there is a team championship as well. We track the team points over the course of the season also. So those Latart cars both running inside of the top 10 going to be a good sign in that battle. And you'll see team cars running together at the plate tracks, the drafting tracks, but maybe not necessarily always a place like Rockingham. So good to see both of those cars pretty equal on speed with the technical alliances as well going on behind the scenes. And again, it's Urashak 7, Scott in the number 8 spot for the moment. Timothy Holmes and others trying to get in on the action and fight for position. But up front, Colin Bowden continues to lead eNASCAR's debut points race at Rockingham, closing in on halfway home at about 10 laps time.
Forbes Jr. by 1,000th of a second, the closest finish in the history. He's gonna have to want it. He's gonna have to die for it. 3 wide to the start-finish line and a tunnel finish in Charlotte.
Every time you sit behind the wheel, you buckle up for the unexpected. You get ready to take on the competition and brace yourself for the chaos, the speed, the weather, the unknown. But above all, when strapping in, you put trust in yourself, your intuition, making your guide to win, your drive to win.
He's a winner in this.
And nothing is going to stop you from winning.
Welcome to more where that came from. More back-to-backs. More epic last laps.
In hot pursuit.
More stripes. More short fuses. More bumps and bruises.
Go, 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 go. You'll be full wide. They're back behind you.
More Lone Star Showdowns.
That's all you, bro. Proud of you guys.
More Heartland Heartstoppers. Welcome to the edge of your seat. Welcome to NASCAR.
This portion of the broadcast is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Logitech G, the design, engineering, and a love of driving games. Logitech G takes racing simulation to another level. Logitech G, the official wheel and pedals of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And by Sunoco, from fueling your favorite NASCAR teams to filling up at the pump. Sunoco is trusted to help vehicles perform at their peak. Sunoco, performance is what we do.
We're back live in Rockingham, North Carolina, where Colin Bowden continues to lead the race in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series first points trip to the Rock. Bowden, Minter, and Alt have been the 3 drivers to lead laps in this race thus far, and right now they sit in first, second, and third on the racetrack. We mentioned a couple of drivers got cycled out on the pit strategy. They came down to pit under green, got caught out by an ill-timed yellow, and had to restart at the tail end of the lead lap. That includes big names like Steven Wilson and Jordy Lopez, names who had been up front earlier. They're doing some progress, 16th and 18th for Wilson and Gary respectively, but Kenneth's still a long way to go before they're back up and in the mixes. We drop back and check out what's going on halfway down the backstretch around that number 22 car and others. Bobby Zelensky, 21st at a battle with the 14 car to the outside of DeMerchant.
Yeah, Wilson and company have to really think about what they got to do in this stretch of the run as we go past halfway, because they really need a yellow to come down pit road again and get the same fresh tires as everyone else, presumably when they come down at some point throughout this race, but they are just trapped where they're at. And another big point in all of this is Parker White, who was running in the mid-pack, hadn't been doing the greatest over the first stint, then under the yellow flag. It appears he got trapped a lap down, and he's in the running for the lucky dog, not even the leader there if a yellow comes out right now. That spot goes to Michael Cozy Jr., sitting in 34th place. So we talk about the grander scheme of the segment 1 end here tonight from Rockingham. Best driver out of it right now is Zach Novak. Wilson and White have a lot more work cut out for them if they want to get back in this thing.
And Parker White, they're just right there, tail end of the screen there, just behind this battle on the lead lap. Parker White is running about 4 car lengths behind Michael Cozy Jr. So he has a realistic opportunity to try to get to Cozy for position. And again, if we get a yellow flag, that would be the lucky dog spot to get back onto the lead lap. Well, the 6-car Colin Bowden had been unchallenged for some time, but race leader no longer, because Tucker Minter down the back straightaway, able to put a move on him. And for the first time in this race, we have a race leader as Minter goes back to the top of the scoring pylon into number 97.
You know, one thing going into this race that Minter did not miss out on is long run pace. And like we saw earlier in this race, the way he was able to carve through the top 3, find his way to second, and make pressure happen on the back end of Dylan Alt's Chevrolet late in that run before the yellow came out. It shows the work that William Byron Esports has put into this Minter car and how fast he really is. First time in clean air in a little bit. Now Bowden has to reset himself and get things back going. How about Malik Ray for Vegas Inferno? Him and Michael Guest on that brand new team for 2025, Evan. Malik is one of the biggest movers tonight, plus 21. 33rd at the start of this race, got by the big accident. He's up into P12, so lots of highlights here. And Malik, who had started this season off really strong at Daytona, fell down a little bit through Vegas and Interlagos, picked up 12th at Richmond, and here he is back in the same spot right now.
And he looks about as cool and calm as you could be for a guy that's passed about 20-something cars. He's feeling pretty good, I think, at what he's got behind the wheel of that Inferno Racing Chevrolet. And now, next man up for him would be Blake McCandless, who also has been making steady progress forward. All these cars have had good nights. I mean, Timothy Holmes, Kwame Scott, Graham Bolin, and more, all big movers over the course of this race. And how about Garrett Lowe? I know you touched on this one, Kenneth, at the top of the show, but he is not racing from home. You might notice that's not his normal setup. Well, he's racing in the basement of the BS Competition CEO Florian Hosper's house in Germany. Why, you may ask? Well, we talked about this the last time out, that he will be competing in the NASCAR Euro Series this year. That paint scheme in sim, the same looking car that he'll drive in the Euro Series, and I'm pretty sure they have to fly to a race tomorrow, and that's why he's racing in the boss's basement right now.
Yeah, he's going to be flying in a couple of hours after this race is all over. I mean, he's focused really well on this battle here inside the top 16. But it was funny because Florian had posted it on social media, and he said, if you told me that an eNASCAR race would be contested from my basement in a sim rig by our driver that's going to fly out to Europe to the racetrack in a couple of hours after, I'd call you a realist. And there's a spinner right behind the driver of Lowe, though. It was nearly a spin for one of the Apex Racing cars. Cody Bias found trouble entering turn 3. We stay green, but back on the point of Garrett Lowe, a great opportunity for BS Plus competition for him to run in the NASCAR Euro Series, and it's going to be awesome to see what he can do this weekend.
So they're headed to Spain tomorrow for his first race weekend. Also, I know we've talked about this before. We've had some international drivers outside of North America compete in this series before. This is an optimal time to be an American or Canadian driver. It is 3:03 in the morning where he is currently racing in Germany. So that's just an added element to the jet lag and the unfamiliarity of the space. Replay of what that near miss was amongst the Apex cars, bottom of your screen. Both of those team cars getting together on the entry to turn number 3. Very good job to quickly recover them. Probably not going to get any damage in that one, but for Cody Bias and company, not really what the Apex Racing team wanted to see. That could have been a lot worse, though, still.
Yeah, thankfully they all kept it straight, and I think that was Quentin Warman on the outside who just kind of got hit down low by those two Apex Racing cars, and this fight is still far from over. We saw this at the tail end of the long green flag run that kicked off the race before the yellow came out at lap 69, and this was the same way, right? 3 and 2 wide, everyone all over the place. The racing has been phenomenal throughout the race here at Rockingham. Just shows the difficulty of this nature track to drive and the way these guys have to really push things if they want themselves at the front. And how about Nick Ottinger? Remember the struggles earlier on in this race? He's still trying to cut his teeth through the top 20. He's in 24th right now. Had a look to the inside 3 wide, and it was immediately negated as they entered the corner, and we may be 3 wide again. How about nearly 4 wide?
Yeah, they're pushing the limits, and the 14 car has set the Merchant wanted nothing to do with that one. He backs out on the front stretch, tucks back in line, and the big winner on the bottom is going to be Ryan Luza all the way up to position number 20. Here's another look at that 3 wide squeeze, the Apex cars on the bottom, and how it almost all fell apart for them down into turn number 3. And they're still all battling in the same battle for position right around here, but Ryan Luza passed basically all of them there. He's somebody else who started inside of the top 10 in this race, found himself cycled out due to the various strategies and the timings of the yellow flags. I'm sure Luza keen to want to get back into the top 10, doing a good job. He has broken away from this group almost entirely and has left another 3-wide battle behind him. That time through the middle of it all, the 98 Machina Bias splits the difference.
Still been fun to watch between these guys, and with that incident between the two Apex Chevrolets, I would not envy the position that the Merchant was in, because if one of the drivers goes sideways entering turn 3, chances are they're going to go right up the banking and into the wall where maybe the Merchant would have been. Look at Jimmy Mullis cutting through the outside with LaPrade right behind him in the battle between himself and his fellow teammate. For Kevin Harvick Incorporated, a bit of teammate on teammate racing here with 85 laps to go. It's been phenomenal stuff, and Jimmy Mullis had a bit of experience here at Rockingham in the last several years. He was one of those drivers, Evan, a part of that eNASCAR All-Star race here at Rockingham that you got to cover back in 2019, where he finished in P15. So really cool stuff to be, I guess, full circle moment back here at Rockingham, this time with a different era of car and a different era of series.
Yeah, I thought it was fun seeing Zach Novak on some of the highlights of that on Countdown to Green. Age 17, Zach Novak, back in 2019 when both here at Rockingham in August and earlier in the year at Iowa, these drivers got to compete in 2 exhibition all-star races that were live on NBCSN at the time. A lot of good memories back to that point, and still fascinating considering how long ago 2019 was, as much as I want to think it was 2-3 years ago. How many drivers in that race are actually still in this series to this day? Of course, that 2019 season with Novak finding success in those all-star races would of course be capped off by him becoming the 2019 Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion back then. So the cars have changed, some of the faces have changed, and certainly a lot more prize money for a points race on the line that we had for that 2019 exhibition. But a lot of good memories to look back on to that year, and maybe it'll be an extra indicator for Novak to have some positive vibes in this one. And there's the highlights on the bottom of the screen. Again, we did one at Iowa. That one was earlier in the year. This was the second of the all-star races, and there you have it. Zach Novak and others in contention live on NBCSN. It was really cool.
That's a super cool experience. I remember watching some of these eNASCAR races on TV back when they were airing live. And, you know, Novak being 17, I really hope they're not calling him Unk right now in the eNASCAR space. You know, apparently Unk is a very popular thing between 20-year-olds now. You're calling 20-something-year-olds Unks. I don't know, a little weird. But still, the racing was great. the bumps to the surface was just as interesting as it is right now tonight, Evan, and the racing was phenomenal all the way to the checkered flag as Wilson makes his call. He had been on all tires since the last restart of the race because he didn't come in again, trudging through the mid-pack, and he's back in 31st as he comes in this time.
He got stuck a lap down, had to negate pitting to be able to get a wave by to rejoin the lead lap. He was certainly hoping for a quick yellow, but the strategy will not go in his favor. He's not the only one. Briar LaPrade also going to be forced to come down pit road for service. That means that is just going to put him at least 1, if not 2 laps down. By the time these drivers spend about 40 to 45 seconds on the pit lane, that's nearly 2 laps in and of itself. So unfortunate breaks tying back to the timing of the most recent yellow for some of the faster cars in this race that we had talked about a little bit earlier on. And Nick Ottinger back down again. Is this a second trip, possibly a penalty maybe for Nick Ottinger? That 25 machine was just down, so maybe he's just going to get his scheduled service out of the way. But tough break as things are going to continue to cycle through. And how does this play now? 77 laps to go in this race. Before that ill-timed yellow, Kenneth, we had said it's about 1/3 distance through, 77 laps or so, split this race up. So we are inside of the window to be able to make a pit stop now and go to the end of this race. I know Ottinger's and others, again, off cycle compared to the leaders, but at what point do these top cars start thinking about it as we've got 75 laps to go?
Well, we have the sample size of the first green flag run, and for the most part, by lap 65 and 66, that's when a bulk of the top 5, maybe a bit of the top 10, were coming in for service. Again, fuel can take you about all the way. The tires are the biggest problem, and when you look at the tire sets available, I mentioned before the green flag how having only 3 tire sets is going to be a big thing in this race because you got to be really careful about when you use them. For the most part, Evan, these guys will be using that final set here.
Yeah, when you talk about the, estimated pit window is a couple of different factors, right? These cars can go further than the drivers are going to want them to go, and tires has been the big conversation point tonight. That's where we get that kind of 70 lap number or so is these drivers really don't want to be driving these race cars on tires that are any older than that. And again, maybe they'll split the difference, right? Amongst these leaders, last time they pitted about 55 laps ago. So with just under 75 laps left in this race, you split the difference. Are they coming in 10 laps, right? Is that going to be the decision? Or do some drivers, if they feel like they've done a good job of preserving their tires, maybe they'll go a little bit longer on this run. But again, anybody could physically make it to the end of this race from any point, but they would certainly like to make those runs a little bit shorter, especially with the tire wear. We don't really do races, Kenneth, this long anymore, right? It's a throwback with some of the paint schemes. It's a throwback with the track, but it's been a while since I've seen a race that's 200 laps on the board. So this is race complexion and strategy very different than what we're used to seeing nowadays.
But it's a welcome change for this race and what we'll see at Charlotte later on this season, which is another one of those really long intermediate racetrack events that will challenge the drivers on strategy. It's that a lot of guys really want to see this kind of race pan out this way, and it gives that second opportunity for those who kind of struggled over this season through those shorter sprint races to get down and their head locked in on this longer race. As we get a look at Max Busa, who's trying to carve his way through the field, and Busa, as he recycled through this pack, he puts himself at the moment beneath the top 35, but again, this is all a design to get back on the lead lap as soon as everyone comes in. We saw Nick Ottinger do the very same thing. You struggle over this run, come down early and hope that a yellow flag flies potentially a little bit later, or that these guys find trouble on pit road, because like we saw with Femi and with Taylor Hurst, nothing is guaranteed when the mix of the old and fresh tires come together, as we get a look at second.
Here's the battle going on at fourth and number 2 spot, and Zach Novak has not had an opportunity yet to lead laps in this race, but he's the highest runner who hasn't yet done so. That 6 about and might have got a bit of the fence that time as he was really up high on the exit at turn number 4. If he did, maybe just a kiss, but long run, one of the longest green flag runs we have had in this race thus far. Seems like Novak, one of the better cars late. Also Minter, his advantage for the race lead has ballooned to about 1.5 seconds. I don't know if we've seen any other point in this race where there's been a gap for the race lead quite so big. This battle here, about 14th position on back. Tyler Gary, Ryan Luza, Blaze Crawford, and Vicente Salas, all about 10 seconds off of the race leaders, as the 12th car again on the bottom continues to make moves. Ryan Luza trying to march his way back into the top 10.
And that Gary car, the Parker Kligerman throwback for the E-Racer camp tonight, just fighting hard against this fair group of drivers. And look at Vicente Salas, how strong he's been over the last several weeks. You think of how strong his car was at Interlagos, winning the sprint race, and then leading laps at the virtual Richmond Raceway not that long ago. It's been a bit of a quieter night over the run for Vicente Salas, but I think here, when these guys are stretching out past lip 64, that's really where you're going to see that difference play into the cards, and the overcut strategy potentially might work. Any little bit of gain track position will get you such a big difference when you come down eventually and have the pressure tires and everyone around you. So I'd expect at least now or within the next 7 to 8 laps, these guys in the top 5 and maybe some in the top 15 coming down very, very soon.
It's only a matter of time as the clock hits 66 laps to go in this race. You see Vicente watching on as he is comfortably inside of a pretty good running spot. But again, he's somebody else who started inside of the top 10 in 3rd position and just hasn't been able to maintain it. And we got cars coming to pit road, this time off of turn number 4. It is Alt, Duval, and Holmes, 3 drivers diving onto the pit lane. And they did exactly what I thought some would do and basically split the gap. They'd been out there for 65 laps on tires. They pit with 65 laps to go. So I think the bank is open. Expect a big rush down pit road in these next few laps.
Yeah, the window is wide open right now, and when you've got guys in the mid-pack starting to come in bulks, you're going to look at the rest of the guys in the top 10 follow soon. Look at this group here. The Apex Racing car, I believe that's either Cody Bice or Christopher Hill that's in. There's Blake McCandless, there's Kwame Scott, and a bunch of others are in as well. Dylan Auld, Dylan Duval, like we saw there, Christopher Hill and Alexander Russell have found themselves into pit road. So this is the safe lap to come in. It's a question of how long do you really want to stretch it out now if you're those guys at the front, because like we saw earlier, yellow flag changed everything over the long run through the mix of old and fresh tires. Bowden decides now is his safe call. Zach Novak may just follow him in.
Let's see if he follows him down. Minter to pit road. Novak does make the dive. 1st and 2nd are down pit road for service. Malik Ray in 3rd stays out. He'll cycle through to the race lead. Bolin pits from the number 4 spot. Bowden from P5 also down on pit road for service. So the one Malik Ray in the Inferno Racing Chevrolet goes to the point. How long can he stay out? He has led a lap. He's banked that one. Is it going to be a quick dive down? No, he'll continue to stay out there.
And you'd almost think that 3rd place Ryan Luza would come in, but he is staying out. And these guys are either hoping that a yellow flag comes out at a good time or that they just get all the fresh tires to leapfrog all of those really dominant cars. Because if you can't beat a driver on setup, you can beat them on tires. Look at this run down a pit road by Tucker Minter. That is all 4 tires locked up, the smoke billowing from the back. And I've been worried looking at the driver base, Evan, and seeing if there's been a black flag dealt to any of the drivers. So far, the answer is no, and drivers have been clean. Entering pit road, Tucker Minter cut it really close, though.
And we've had a couple of close moments there with other cars getting onto the pit lane, or, of course, the accident that happened a little bit earlier in the race, because these cars have to get on the brakes while they're on the racing surface. So communication from one driver to another, important to make sure you don't get hit when you're trying to get on pit road. Logan to clamp it all over the back of your race leader. He is also due for a pit stop. He's been out there for some 68 laps. Gary down pit road from inside of the top 3. And it sounds like Malik Ray just now over the radio says that the number 1 car looking to pit road this time. He takes the bottom. He's down onto the apron very early in the corner. Safe for him to get down. Luza pits from 3rd, and it'll be Vicente Salas's opportunity to get a lap led.
Yeah, almost everyone in the top 5 signaled that we're coming down pit road from the back straightaway, and that included Luza, that included Bias, and of course that included Malik Ray. So thankfully these guys are in the place where, now it's safe. They can come down pit road, and now it's about where they cycle out, because you look at where things shape up as of right now. Tucker Minter, who was the leader when he came down pit road, but he's up in 14th place, just cycling through at the moment. Steven Wilson, who we talked about in contention for the segment win, just stepped into the top 10, but he pitted about 22 laps ago. He's still off cycle from everyone in front of him, and it's a waiting game as to who can cycle out first. But for right now, Tucker Minter has the upper hand by a large margin, Evan, and should this stay green, should everything cycle out, Minter is putting himself in a very formidable spot.
He is, and now only waiting on maybe a dozen cars who have still yet to come down pit road. And all of a sudden, Bobby Zelensky in the number 22 car finds himself up and in the number 7 spot. Bobby's in an interesting position. He has been out there for 38 laps since the last time that car came down pit road. So with 55 to go, likely not able to go the distance, but he may be looking for an opportunity to catch a well-timed yellow, get himself right back into the conversation. Keep an eye on the 22. He's off cycle compared to everybody else around him.
And you just got to think at this point in the run, if you're in that alternative strategy call with Zelensky, Wilson, and perhaps a couple of others, are you saving a lot over this long green flag run? Even though everyone's come down for fresh tires, how much are you saving just to keep yourself alive? Because you push that car a little too hard in the course of this run, and it's going to get really dangerous. Once you have fresh tire cars getting around you and you may put yourself 2 or 3 wide, problems can easily come about from there. So I'd be eager to see whether Wilson or Zelensky are playing this game really safely and perhaps nursing the car a little more than you would otherwise over the course of this green flag stretch. There's one of the 6 Karma cars in. That is Daniel Falkingham pitting. He's about 2 laps down. And again, everyone waiting about the top 4 or 5, maybe 6 cars plus that to come down pit road.
And now you look to see who is going to cycle to the point once all of this concludes. Tucker Minter, kind of the net leader, to your point in all of that. He is pitted. We know he's been able to go the distance for sure. He's in the number 8 spot on the racetrack at the moment. Steven Wilson pitted about 27 laps ago. That was very early compared to everybody else. He should, though, have the fuel to go the distance. How would his tires hang on, though? That would probably put him in the high 70s on laps on those tires. Could he possibly nurse those the distance and maybe steal this one on a pit strategy also? So while most of these drivers have been down pit road in the last 10 to 15 laps, there are some of those who pitted earlier who are trying to shake this one up. Stewart down pit road. He's in for service. Garrett Lowe also down pit road. But Vicente Salas continues to cruise. He's led the last 8 laps consecutively up in the number 1 spot.
And there's got to be a lot more chatter from the team voice chats, because you think in a lot of these sprint races and perhaps overall with the tire sets that you're given, usually the play is pit enough times to where you can be even with the rest of the field or better on a tire strategy and then save a set. In the case for overtime, if the race extends past the scheduled distance, do you have a tire set available to come down pit road and beat the crew on fresh set of rubber? Here, because you only have 3, everyone's thinking so hard about when do we have to pit last, because you come down, that's your last stop. You cannot come in for another piece of service on the tire front side of things. If this one goes through overtime, you've got to deal with the bed that you make. So everyone's got to be really careful about when they come in. Probably why you see Salas, Kerwin, Wilson, and Zelensky stay out as long as they have over this stint, despite them being in different calls, because it's 1 tire set left. Either you still have it waiting for you to put at the right time, or you've already used it and you're racing for whatever it's worth.
And there's a couple others who still need a pit for sure. Taylor Hurst at 11th, been out there for 80-something laps. So is Michael Cozy Jr., Quinton Warmid, Parker White. They're all just trying to stretch and catch a yellow for those drivers who are not up in the battle for the race lead. And then amongst your leaders, yes, Allison Kerwin just try to make sure that they try to ride this out as long as possible, not get caught off on timing. But the longest green flag run of this race continues, and we are inside of 50 laps to go from Rockingham. A lot of the names that I just mentioned jumping on the open radio and saying that they are going to be coming to pit road this time by. Do we see Salas join them as the 11 get a bow out? There's a look at Zelensky, Warman, and White on pit road. Salas, though, up front keeps on going. Now 46 laps remaining.
Yeah, and that was a call from Zelensky. Probably didn't anticipate that he would go any longer on what that car was handling with. I mean, it's so ailing at this point of the run when you've gone 65 plus laps. At this point, nearly 100 laps on a set of Goodyear Eagles. These guys got to be screaming for grip out there. And Salas is going to give it whatever it's worth. But there's a hard-charging Tucker Minter who's on that fresh set of rubber. It's, over 50 laps of a difference. So Minter's going to stand through these drivers like they're basically still at this point. And with 45 laps to go, Minter is in the best spot, given he's got no pressure from behind with Zach Novak there. But it's an 8.9 second gap, now 9 seconds that remains, and is slowly crunching down now as here comes Salas. Finally makes this call. 86 laps into his run. Salas is in with 45 left.
Incredible longevity to be able to make those tires last that long. But eventually Salas does bow out, and that leaves only Casey Kerwin for drivers that are running inside of the top 20 who have been out there for longer than 80 laps. How much further can the 24 go before Kerwin comes to pit road and eventually hands the race lead off back to the driver who will cycle through to the net race lead in Tucker Minter. Minter closing the gap anyways. That's the difference. The 4 tires, the 97's going to get there one way or the other. And with 42 laps to go in this race, look at the closing rate between the two of them. To the inside goes Minter. Back to the race lead is the 97.
Minter's only showing muscle when it's flexing time. And here on the strategy, Minter can start to pull away and not think about anything else but staying up front where he's at. And keep in mind the other fresh tire cars that are a lap down or more just trying to get around and put themselves back on the lead lap. Kerwin is going to be in a spot, though, where he's going longer than Salas. And it's going to be interesting to see how long he goes here, because it appears he's not coming in this time. He'll be more than 90 laps in, but he will drop off the track position to at least 3rd, possibly 4th place, given that Novak and Bowden are within a good spot. So Kerwin's left for dust here on the oldest set of tires, and Minter in a great spot to command this one the rest of the way.
Kerwin chatting on the radio. It may finally be time for the 24 machine to come down pit road. And it is a straight fight now, though, for the race lead. Minter and Novak pitted on the same lap 22 laps ago. They've got the same tires, likely the same fuel to the end of this race. Who's going to be the better car when it matters the most? We said Novak looked like one of the best cars on the extreme long run. They're going to be about 62 laps into a tire run by the time we get to the end of the race. Is that long enough of a run for Zach Novak to take advantage of his long run speed? Minter very good on the long run last time. Also, he was able to open up the biggest advantage that we had seen anybody hold in this race from P1. And right now it's just 9/10, making a full second between the two of those cars in P1 and 2.
And it's backwards with this game of lap traffic, because more often than not, you see the leaders trying to get around the slower lap traffic cars. But it's the other way around, because everyone has come down pit road so late trying to stretch this thing as far as possible. You're dealing with faster lap traffic more often than not, because Novak has the 29 Jimmy Mullis right on his tail on fresh tires, looking to get around now to the inside entering turn 3. Tucker Minter had to deal with Blaze Crawford, the rookie, getting right in front of him, along with Seth DeMerchant, because they were on the fresher tires. So it's more about how you let the traffic pass you versus when you catch up to them. But Novak has been really quick, matching and maybe besting some of the lap times that Minter's been putting on the racetrack. But now that he's in the dirty air for Mullis, not sure how much that will affect him down the long run.
40 laps to go now and under in this race. Still a couple of drivers due to pit road. Questions linger around guys like LaPrade, guys like Wilson, who have already been out there for 40-plus laps. Are they going to stretch them all the way into the 80s? Certainly doable on fuel. Question is, what are those cars going to be able to do tire-wise that late into a run? And will they drop out of the spots that they currently run in? The battle for 8th still ongoing. Blake McCandless, his constant and steady improvement all night long, has gotten into a top 10 spot. Is that throwback number 8 Chevrolet going to be able to maintain that to the end? He's got strong pressure now from Dylan Alt, who led 57 laps earlier in this race, to the inside, trying to make a move for P9. McCandless, defensive on the outside, not going to go down without a fight. And those live points on the right-hand side of our screen, Kenneth, the 4-point margin right now in favor of your P2 runner, Zach Novak.
And you think back to the product of this situation here with 34 to go. That one caution flag at lap 69 where Wilson had come in a little earlier, thought it was a routine pit stop, bam, yellow flies, and he says to himself, I can't waste another set here because I'm going to be all out of luck with one to go for the rest of the race when we weren't even halfway. So it put Zach Novak in the best spot where he was on the exact margin for tire strategy to be on par with everyone else, and he's at stake to get $3,000 and playoff bonus points. We talked about how fast this car was at Richmond a couple of weeks ago. The 2 straight top 10 finishes, including second not too long ago at the Action Track in Virginia. The segment win, even if he's not able to take the W tonight, would be a huge boost in his run for the championship.
Battles all over the racetrack, including the battle for 21st position. Jordi Lopez, race lead car of that group, but he is under fire. The 36 machine, that's Kwame Scott on the outside, looking in line. Cody Bias working the bottom. Tyler Gary, haven't talked a ton about that car, but it's been pretty consistent in the high teens and low 20s. 2 lanes, a 2x2. All of these drivers certain to be able to make it to full race distance in this one. Just kind of waiting for where trouble may come from, and it's a treacherous game amongst the leaders. Look at that 36 car, high to low, trying to make some moves is Kwame Scott.
All I'm going to say, Evan, I do not want to be that guy that makes the commentator's jinx happen. I've already done it before. I don't want to do it again. But Scott getting aggressive here on Lopez, and the fight sticks through to turn 1. That's a great place to make pass attempts, that hard braking zone to a sharper radius through the first 2 corners. And as long as you can slide up in front of the other guy through the middle and the center of the corner when you're getting back on that throttle, and when you're stuck in dirty air, you have to wait a couple of seconds past just to finally get on the throttle and get the momentum off the corner. Lopez is going to lose a ton, though, off of that one very sequence, dropped at least 2 to 3 spots just because of that sling to the inside from Scott. And now up the road, look at Tyler Gary, a slide job moving 3 and 4. What a pass.
Trying to take everything they've learned over the course of this race and to put it to use in a nice, pretty move for Tyler Gary to give him that spot as they run, move him into the number 22 spot. Still looking for more, trying to get underneath the number 62 car. And again, Tuesdays are the place to be, and you're not going to want to miss this one next Tuesday night. It is the championship race for the 2024-25 eNASCAR College iRacing Series. That series has gone through 2 semesters, 8 regular season races, and the top 25 ready to do battle with a lot of scholarship money on the line. And even if you're like me, you enjoy racing, but you're not pro-level driver, like I ain't winning a college series race anytime soon, but you want to be in on some of the other action, you can use that QR code that was there. Join in on the paint scheme contest if you're creative in the paint booth, in the Photoshop, and be a part of the series' future. I know the college series teased some exciting changes coming, but it did confirm that the college series will be returning later this year for yet another season. Meanwhile, live points starting to grow for the Segment 1 championship. It is now a 7-point gap, and that is because Steven Wilson, who pitted early, and I just mentioned he's going to be on 80-something lap old tires by the end, is starting to feel the effects of that, Kenneth. He's dropping down the run order, and that is what is making those live points continue to grow.
Yeah, the difference in tires so big between him and the rest of the field. I mean, you think of maybe 85-ish% of the field have been on the same strategy, while Wilson and Zelensky and a couple of others have put themselves in that very different place, not because they wanted to do it, but because they were practically forced into that situation with the amount of tire sets they had remaining. And Rockingham is not one of those tracks where tire wear is not a problem. It is a big-time issue when you're already this long into a long green flag stretch. So for Wilson, he's just got to take care of his Chevrolet until the end. His mindset has to be finish this race. And given the amount of wins he's had, how streaky he's been for the first 4 races of the season, I don't warrant this as a monument for concern for Wilson. It's just bad spot, bad luck situation. He needs the yellow to turn this race around, maybe, as a look on board with Blake McCandless trying to catch up and put himself into the top 10 and finish in the top 10 for the first time this year.
He has been in the top 10 at points. Right now, just on the outside in the number 11 position is going to be the next man up to look to the outside of that 77 machine is Steven Wilson. And you're looking at about a 15 to 20 lap tire difference. There's just not much that 77 machine has done. It has been a stellar season for Steven Wilson, race winner of 3 of the first 4 races. First time that has ever happened in series history, but even a man of those talents can't make up the difference. The 20 laps worth of tires. McCandless makes the pass on him, and he is now back inside of the top 10. About 3 seconds up the road is the 21 of Michael Guest, and right now he is putting pressure on Colin Keister. It's the battle for P4.
And a great run by Michael Guest. I mean, we noted Malik Ray earlier on in this race for that Vegas Inferno camp, new to 2025 in this series. Well, Michael has put in a ton of work over this race, and very happy to see this one go into a long green flag stretch, and probably even happier to see some more clean air in front of him. It's a little while before he can catch up to Colin Bowden for a spot on the podium, but it's a great run for both of those Vegas Inferno cars. I think other than Daytona, Evan, the best run that we've seen out of those 2 cars collectively over the course of the 2025 season. And if you're anywhere that the likes of Michael Guest is on point standings, you really need a good run tonight. And after having a best finish of 16th, this is easily going to best that by a tenfold.
Wilson continues to slide. When the pit cycle had completed, he was about the number 4 spot on the racetrack, now down into the number 12. And again, it's only going to continue to get worse because Graham Boland right there, Christopher Hill about a half a corner back, then maybe some reprieve. Femi Alonso boasted in 15th. That's a couple seconds. Maybe he can nurse that gap over the final 18. And what a hit to the outside wall. That 6 car of Colin Bowden about knocked down the fence in turn number 2. Overshooting it there, and his battle trying to get up to Zach Novak for P2. That car on the bottom is not for position. That is Nate Stewart, who is trying to get around these cars. So a couple of lap drivers behind Bowden. He is not immediately under fire as the golf coverage continues in the background. Somebody somewhere's got to have a spreadsheet, right, of everything that he's had on in the background over the years.
And, you know, with Bowden, somebody's got to be that niche scorekeeper, right? If not, I think maybe we can start now of how many different things we've seen Bowden have on his TV whenever he races with his camera on. But he's had a plenty fast Ford Mustang over the course of this race, and he had been right on par with Novak for this run.
When you see the BuildSubmarines.com sponsorship on that car, a lot of the drivers and cars in this series will have sim-specific sponsors. Of course, that car looks familiar if you watch the Cup Series on Sundays with the RFK Racing Group, but it's kind of a double entendre, if you will. Not only is that the Cup sponsor for RFK Racing, but Colin Bowden also works for Build Submarines. So a good tie-in there, and supporting the company colors on that thing, trying to get this thing to a top 3 finish in this race. And there's only 14 laps to go the next time by. Novak has been unable to close on Minter. That gap now 2.6 seconds in favor of the driver of the 97 machine. No other immediate threats inside of the top 3. Plenty going on outside of that bubble, but up front, all remains the same.
And the table shows you through the lap times. You know, Minter has been much faster than Novak by about a tenth or so. When he's in clean air, just when he's in lap traffic, that's where he matches the pace of Novak. And even then, right now, Novak, who's trailing behind Casey Kerwin, one of the lap cars who's pushing on through, he's starting to slow down a little bit. So getting a little more dire for Novak to get reeled back into this thing with Minter for the battle for the race lead. And then look up the road where Malik Ray has to deal with a ton of lap traffic. Oh yeah, and one spot right in front of him, Colin Keister.
And this is a hornet's nest. It's about 10 seconds off of the race leaders, but everything up for grabs in the battle for P5. Leader Keister, Malik Ray, next man up. He'll look down to the inside. Can he make the bottom work, though? It's been tricky for cars to make the pass work on the bottom without the advantage of tires in their favor. But Malik feels like he may have the better race car right now. He started way back in 33rd in this race. He is up 27 spots. That is tied for the most spots gained in this race with Colin Keister. And as Malik Ray gets on through, make it 28 positions gained. What a drive.
And it was a mistake right in front of him from Keister, where the right rear tire and the other rear tire just lit up completely as he was getting in the gas pedal off of turn 4, had to wheel it just to save it, went down the racetrack, but that's enough lost speed to give Malik Ray the spot. I don't think Keister's in a place where he's going to fight this one with much resistance given how much temperature's on his rubber right now, but a fantastic performance for Malik Ray. You open up these races and you give these drivers a chance to prove their worth like this. Vegas Inferno, 4th and 5th, probably the standout race we've seen from them other than Daytona.
It has been a great showing, and again, we knew this track, worn out surface, long race distance would give us the opportunity to see exactly this, and that is drivers who may not have had a good qualifying effort, but end up in a good position. There are just as many drivers currently running inside of the top 12 that started 30th or lower than drivers that started inside of the top 10. This race has given drivers opportunities to make their way through the field. And one driver who has been able to defend the track position, which has not been easy tonight, as that man right there in Dylan Duval. Started in 4th, he's still in P7. Bit of a quiet night, but that hasn't been the worst thing for the 199. Trying to make sure he can get to the end of this race ahead of that 47 to Dylan Alt, who's about 2 car lengths off his bumper.
And to your point, Duval is part of the, 40% of drivers in the top 10 that started this race in the top 10, while everyone else had to claw their way through the field and work their way from, as low as 16th or worse in this race. I mean, Duval has had a great showing in a very strong car. Sometimes over these long races, that's what you need, an uneventful race to where nothing stands out, there's no craziness going on, you just have a solid car and you have a solid race. Not that he's going to be without a fight though in these final 5, because Dylan Alt's hounding on the rear bumper, but Duval and this overall Channel 199 Sim Racing group have both had solid races over tonight, and they're going to carry that with a lot of positivity and smiles in these final few.
And now everybody gets to the hold your breath point of the race, where the lap times have slowed to 25.5 seconds, but if you're the race leader, they probably feel like they're a minute plus. You're trying to count this one down and get to the scheduled race distance. 5 laps to go at Rockingham. Minter's advantage now a race high 3+ seconds. There has not been a gap this big at any other point in this race. Clearly the best car late, but it's all of these battles, the 2 wides, the 3 wides, and so on and so forth, that he's got a front row view of in many cases as he's starting to lap the field, that make him nervous. You see that 77. Wilson has fallen to 17th position. It continues to get worse. So while Zach Novak P2 might be a bit disappointed about a race win maybe slipping away from him here, P2 should be enough for Novak to lock up that segment championship, assuming nothing changes in the final 3.
And one of the last times we saw the live points, it was a 4-point spread, with Wilson playing catch-up. Now that he's lost so much of this track position, that is easily ballooned, and with the way Minter has been performing, he leapfrogs that 77, and although he may now have a shot at the segment win right now, a race win in general is going to be huge. We haven't seen much of William Byron Esports over the course of this season, the struggles that Nick Ottinger has found, and even with Tucker Minter's great runs, it just has not been enough yet to take the cake. And Minter, looking for his first win since Nashville Superspeedway last year, will try and see the white flag.
Couple hundred more feet until this race is official for the Bernani safety car as he looks to lead 100 laps en route to the win. White flag in the air. 1 lap to go. Strange to say that 2024 felt like a down year for him. He still won a race. He still made the playoffs, but it was hard to compete with his rookie campaign in 2023 that saw 4 trips to victory lane. It's going to be a return to form for the driver of the 97, 3 straight seasons with a race win in iRacing's Top Series. Minter wins at Rockingham.
And what a drive for Minter. We noted that long run pace. I mean, this race helped him in that case with the first long stretch through lap 69, where Minter put himself in the top 3. And as one of the favorites midway, he absolutely crushed it through the pit road strategy, didn't find any pressure, and just led this one all the way. Even with a bit of a pressure from Zach Novak behind him, the good laps he was putting on, Minter was not phased, and through all the lap traffic, Minter gets his first win of the season in an unbelievable fashion, and what a job from Rockingham. Probably one of the best races we've seen.
This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR, as Tucker Minter, 5th career trip to victory lane, and continues the streak of being a race winner now in all 3 of the seasons in which he has competed here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, and looks to become one of few to make the playoffs in 3 consecutive seasons. Is William Byron Esports back? I'll tell you what, that 97 car had a lot of speed tonight. He leads a perfect 100 laps. Let's take a look at your Coca-Cola move of the race. It was a long green flag run to the end of this. It has that pit cycled through. This move here, Minter to the inside, made quick work of the 77 and never looked back. He only increased the gap on the likes of Novak, Bowden, and others, and it was an impressive statement race win for Tucker Minter, leading again a perfect 100 of the 200 laps on the board here tonight, and he'll be looking to go to the playoffs for a 3rd straight season. Congratulations to Tucker Minter, race winner in eNASCAR's first points race here at The Rock. Well, let's take a look at our Coca-Cola full race results tonight. Final margin of victory for the William Byron Esports Chevrolet, 3+ seconds over top of Zach Novak, who comes home second in the Channel 199 Sim Racing Toyota. And Colin Bowden, big drive, 27 spots gained. It's a P3 for the RFK Racing Ford. We'll try to get a word with those drivers in a few moments. Vegas Inferno 4-5. Great showing for Michael Guest and Malik Ray. They'll finish ahead of Colin Keister, P6. The second 199 car, it's Dylan Duvall in top 10. Alt comes home at 8th. Urashak quietly sneaks in for P9. And Rambolin rounds out your top 10.
How about a lot of those guys that have been getting their best finishes of the season? Blake McCandless in 11th. Vicente Salas went so long on his stint, pitted and recovers for 8th. And you go down this list of all these guys fighting for track position. Cody Bias recovers from a almost spin midway through the race. Seth the Merchant with a good run. And you look at Steven Wilson, the opposite strategy he was put on did not work for him. He goes down to 18th at the checkered flag, with Christopher Hill and Tyler Gary wrapping up tonight's top 20.
Back in the 20s, you'll see where some drivers had some pros and gains. I mean, Alexander Russell gets some spots up. That's a good result for him. Not a good result for the likes of Jordy Lopez, who were drivers battling for the race lead early and just unable to put the full race together. Back down in the 30s as well. A lot of drivers who were involved in maybe some of the early incidents, caught out on some of the strategy. Parker White, a name that jumps out there, came into this as the segment points leader. He will not walk away with the $3,000 and the 5 playoff points. Not enough with a P35 on the grid in this one. Well, our top finishers are standing by. Kenneth, let's talk with your race winner.
5th career Coke Series win for Tucker Minter. And Tucker, you told us a couple of weeks ago at Richmond on Twitter that your lean in was worth at least half a tenth. I think this one is worth a race win. How important is this W tonight, given how fast you were here at Rockingham?
Man, I mean, it's just huge to be able to get a win. I mean, there's the relief for the rest of the season to know you're in the playoffs and not have to worry about points as much and be able to kind of take a little bit more risk. That's going to be huge. I mean, I guess Novak probably ended up getting to the segment, so we missed out on some playoff points there. But man, it's just huge and a huge boost to confidence for us as well.
Super consistent through these first 5. This win gets you into playoffs now, but you enter segment 2, which is a little shorter than what we saw to kick off this season. What do you try and prioritize through this mid-season area of the points, where you're just going to try and look forward to the playoffs and get as much momentum as possible?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we still want to get a lot of points because we can get a bunch of playoff points through the segment. So that's still going to be a pretty high priority, but we're going to try to survive Talladega. And as long as we come out ahead there, I think we'll be in a good spot for points, because it's kind of a mile and a half for Rama after that. So I think we're set up for a good run as long as we can survive Talladega and kind of get our incident point down a little bit.
Well, Tucker, you are now the only points-paying Rockingham winner in eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series history. I'm sure that sounds pretty good. Congratulations on the win, and we'll see you at the gang at Talladega in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And if I can, I'd just really like to give a special shout-out to Chris Hill. He did a lot of work for us on the setup this week, and I was really leaning on him a whole lot to help me out. So really appreciate his work, and I really appreciate William Byron Esports and everything they do for us.
That is Tucker Minter, race winner here from Rockingham. We'll turn over to our third place finisher, Colin Bowden. Colin, I know you're missing a bit of the Masters there on the TV over your right shoulder, but this car was blistering quick. Take us through the challenges you faced, but how it feels to get a podium finish, best one of the season so far.
Oh man, we didn't have any challenges that first run. I mean, we were going to the woodshed right there at the first run. I mean, I just put it up on the boards and the car ran really good. I was worried about running the tires off of it. I'm pretty good at doing that, and I never really did it. I guess it's just this is a driver's track, and that shows why I was going to the front. And Tucker just made a really good change there, I guess, or something, the second run, or maybe I'm just old and can't do a 200 lap race anymore, But I mean, it was good to see. It was good to run good. I mean, I was 39th. I was dead ass last in points before this race, and now, we still got it. Oldest guy in the series. We're fighting for our life in this thing.
On your teeth, and you're getting the results. A great job tonight, Colin. Congratulations on the third place finish, and we'll see you at Talladega. That's going to be wild.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to win Talladega. That's my best racetrack. These boys got nothing for me there.
Hey, calling the shot. I like it. Evan, that is Colin Bowden, who comes home in third, and Tucker Minter, the race winner here from Rockingham.
Yeah, not sure if he's the big dog or we got to call him the babe calling his shot.
Yeah.
We'll see how it does, because it'll be in 2 weeks' time where we go back super speedway racing for the second time this year, and it'll be the start of segment number 2. It is none other than Talladega, coming at you in a couple of weeks' time, Tuesday, April the 22nd. So points, money, that's all been cashed out for the Segment 1 championship. A new segment begins anew, but now you get to the dog days of the regular season, the middle point, round 6, 7, 8, 9, coming up next. And again, for drivers who may have been, in a slump to start the year, running out of opportunities to turn things around, Talladega is certainly a chance for somebody to change their fortunes.
Yeah, for sure. This is the be-all, end-all for elevating drivers who have struggled. And the great equalizer, Super Speedway, I just throw my hands up to my side and I say absolute chaos. That's what I do when I think of Talladega Super Speedway. Segment 2 to kick off this one will shake things up in the point standings a bunch, but it should be another great race filled with a lot of high-intensity action.
And we hope that you join us for that one. If you want to hear from more of your top finishers in tonight's race, Novak, Yerashat, Guest, and others will be available because the Sunoco post-race report is next. Stay tuned as we wrap up our coverage and hear from more drivers with their instant reaction from The Rock. But until next time, that is it for us here tonight from Rockingham. On behalf of our entire team at NASCAR, iRacing, and your broadcast team tonight, for the Countdown to Green crew, Camille Salazar, Hadaway, Alan Cavana, Ryan Vargas, and for your booth team tonight, Kenneth Bueno, and myself, Evan Pasoko. I want to say thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you again in 2 weeks' time, Tuesday, April 22nd, at iRacing's virtual Talladega Super Speedway. That race and every race of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until then, good night from Rockingham, and congratulations to first-time winner this season, Tucker Minter.
Welcome to the post-race report presented by Sunoco for tonight's eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series event at the Rockingham Speedway. Jay Spike alongside Keenan Kusin for this. And Keenan, I look at this. Tucker Minter, obviously one of the fastest cars all night, gets the dub. But how about all the experience in the top 10? Pretty much everybody in the top 10 has at least 2 years of Coke experience, if not more.
You know, I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of the drivers were asking for longer races. And then once we got it, it's those who have all that experience, James, who ended up towards the front of the field. You see Jack Novak, Colin Bowden up there, Malik Ray, Colin Keister. All these names are regular suspects here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they got to stretch their legs and showed that they can, work the tire, work the fuel. A lot more going on in tonight's race, and it put off by saying who's in your top 10.
The only person with not a lot of experience, the only rookie in the top 10, Connor Yarashak for Let's Art Esports. Shout out to him. We're going to get him on in a little bit. But for now, let's bring back Tucker Minter in to all of this. And Tucker, for all the drivers to talk about how tough this place is, you made it look so easy. Was that a combo of just strat, or were you just rolling with speed all night?
Yeah, I mean, I got to thank the Altus boys. We had a real hot rod, especially we're on the outside. We weren't the best on the bottom, but man, the outside never went away, and luckily we were able to really just keep it rolling, keep the tires on it. Luckily, we had that track position from qualifying. I've really tried to put emphasis on that early this year, and fortunately it's worked out. So having that track position, just being able to kind of make my moves, I think that was really the key, aside from the hot rod we had.
If you want the opportunity to potentially ask Tucker a question, make sure to punch in your question in chat on Twitch. In the meantime, we're going to bring in some of our media members. We're going to start with Justin Malillo from iRacing.
Thank you, James. Hey, Tucker, congratulations on the win tonight. Second place, though, in the segment. Was there any race that you look back on and think, man, I wish I could have had 8 more points in this first segment?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sucks to hear it's 8 points because at Las Vegas, we were on the wrong tire strategy, but I think I definitely could have got 8 more points at Las Vegas. I made a mistake on that last green flag run. I had just gotten to third, and I had a run on Parker and Donnie through 1 and 2, and I was just trying a little bit too hard to get to Donnie's outside, I think it was, off of 2, and just carried a little too much speed, got in Parker's air, and ended up sliding up, hitting the wall, and lost pretty much 7 spots in the blink of an eye. It went from, maybe getting probably 4th or 5th, potentially 2nd in that race to, 11th. So unfortunate, but, that's just the way it goes. So, luckily the win makes it feel better.
Next up, we're going to bring up another media member, Jacob Seelman.
Tucker, when you look at this, when you look at this on the whole, Tucker, I am curious: is this more of a relief than anything compared to a normal win, given that it took you so long from the middle of last year to get to victory lane?
Yeah, I mean, the first win of the season is always a relief. I didn't really realize that my rookie year, winning at Daytona and kind of exceeding expectations all year. It was just kind of, going through the year, not carefree, but, without that kind of stress that that you experienced last year, especially last year with the bad start I had. It was like, man, we really got to get something together to make the playoffs. So it wasn't, luckily things were going pretty well so far this season. But it's still just a massive relief to, especially, the third winner on the season kind of gives you the opportunity to really be aggressive and chase a lot more wins, where some guys have to be a little more conservative with their strategies to make sure they can keep their points up.
How nervous? I mean, everybody's nervous going to Talladega, but does the win take all the pressure off, or are there still a few nerves coming in?
I mean, the way I approach play races, I'm not super nervous about them. It's just like it's another race, and you kind of do what you can to position yourself the best. I feel like I made some good strides in the last few years running Rod Car, a league on iRacing that runs super speedways, and that's helped me. But really, the only stretch for Talladega for me is incident points, because I've I have at least 3 more than I should have, and in my opinion, 6 more than I really should have for incidents I did not cause, but I was blamed for. So hopefully we don't get any from tonight. I don't think I did anything untoward. I was a part of the stack up at the start, but I feel like that was just a freak deal, racing incident, if anything. So, just trying to make sure we get through there with a clean nose and keep moving forward, getting that incident point down through Talladega.
Tucker, as you know, we're taking questions from the Twitch chat as well. I see someone out there by Clayton H asking, who is your most handsome teammate? I know you might have a lot to choose from here, but...
Oh, man. I mean, how can you pick just one, right? I feel like that's the most diplomatic answer.
I think he's looking for someone specifically, though. We're going to put you on the spot here. I don't think that answer is going to fly in court.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it depends on the day, I guess. I mean, I could kind of schmooze Jordy, say him. I could make Bobby feel better. He had some good shots for media day. Hitting up the Rizzler face. That was a pretty good social media post. He looked sharp in that. Chris Money Hill always looks like money. We just got a lot of handsome guys over on the back end team. But if we're talking about William Byron Esports, then really I would pick. I guess I'd only be able to pick Nick.
I think you're going to have some really happy and some really upset Discord DMs here in the next few minutes. James Pike, back to you.
Yeah. I'm going to let Tucker fight that later. Tucker, before you go, you may or may not know, we got a big golf tournament going on this week, and they always host a dinner for the most recent champions. So we wanted to ask you, what's on your champions dinner menu, and how are you incorporating Coca-Cola into it?
Well, I mean, big Coca-Cola fan anyway. That would just be probably my drink of choice, along with some Celsius provided by William Byron Esports. But I'm a big chicken tender guy. I'd probably have some Longhorn Steakhouse chicken tenders, either catered or made by the people at the Masters, because you just can't beat the Longhorn Steakhouse chicken tenders. And we might throw in a little bit of steak on the side as well.
What's the dipping sauce on the tenders?
I don't need any different sauce. They're so good. You just eat them dry. That's all you need.
That is bold. I like it. That is really, really bold, but I like it. Tucker Pinter, congrats. First dub in 2025. Have fun with the champ of the rock. We're going to slide over to Zach Novak. Segment 1 champion, gets the playoff points and the extra bit of cash. Zach, I know you haven't had the win you wanted the first few weeks of the season, but to have this kind of role and to be on your best streak consistency since the middle of 22, got to be a really nice feeling for you, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel, like I said to you guys, at Richmond, I feel great behind the wheel, man. Really, really do. The cars are great. I feel sharp. So, yeah. Same deal as last time. I really don't like finishing second that much, but at the end of the day, yeah, we're just going to keep chipping away at points and keep bringing fast cars to the racetrack, and it's going to work out for us.
Let's go get Justin Malillo once again. Get him to ask a question here to our 2019 Series champ.
Yeah, let's go back to 2019 for a second. The last time we were here at The Rock, you were the winner here in a unofficial exhibition race. But I mean, if you take that into consideration, your average finish is about 1.5. So what is it really about The Rock that resonates with you?
Well, as you guys saw, pretty much all race, I would say 180 of the 200 laps I was rolling bottom. So I think that's, kind of where I get my advantage. I just feel super comfortable, putting it on the yellow line and just trying to wrap it as best as I can. And, there's really nobody, in my opinion, that I felt like could do it as good as I could. Unfortunately, Tucker just had a ton of pace up on the wall that I couldn't really find. But, yeah, the bottom is just a comfortable place for me here. And luckily, I was just, we were able to tune the car for it and dial it in. And it had a lot of speed down there.
Just as a reminder to those out in Twitch chat, we are taking questions from the community. Zach, longer race tonight. Was the pre-race process any different? Did we have to carb up, do some extra stretches? What was going on pre-race that maybe you did different today than any other race we've done so far?
Nothing really, to be honest. I'd like to kind of keep the same routine and just, not really change anything up. regardless of the race, really. I would say the biggest preparation difference was, in testing, we were doing, longer runs than we typically do. Just to be prepared for those long runs that we kind of expected and got. So, doing a few super long runs really helped tune the car for it, and just be prepared for everything. And just once again, just very happy with it, and we'll keep on chugging along.
Zach, I'm curious. You're the only driver in the series to average a start and finishing position in this first segment of 7th or better. What do you attribute to all of a sudden, oh, hey, we're back after a couple of years that I know you told me back in January have really been down by your standards?
Yeah, well, it starts with, talking to you over the winter. The back end affiliation change starts with that. And just the preparation and, time put in. We work our butts off on these cars, man. And I think it really shows. So, I think that's the biggest thing. And I just think, upgrading the equipment a little bit and just kind of resetting mentally. I think it was really important for me to just kind of understand that I'm still here for a reason. Even with performing as poorly as I feel like I have over the last 4 years, I've still found a way to stick around. So, I'm here for a reason, and I'm here to prove I belong.
The start to the year, does that make it all the more gratifying because of the hardships and just the slog that it took to get back to this point?
Yeah, I would agree a little bit more if we had a win. But with that said, yeah, just the pace is excellent. And like I've said a couple times, I feel great behind the wheel. So it definitely feels pretty gratifying. The work's paying off for sure. And I feel really, really comfortable in these races again, which is something that I, kind of wavered a little bit. I can't lie. Over the last couple of years, when you're struggling and can't really figure anything out, you lose some confidence. So, confidence is back, and I feel great. Just once again, got to keep chipping away at it.
I love the branding you've got in the background there, Zach. You've got the bottle of Coke there. Are you swapping those out every time, or is that just collecting some dust? You might be thirsty.
It's collecting a little bit of dust. I can't lie. It's got my name on it, my full name on it, so it's personalized. It's pretty sick. I'll make sure to keep it clean, though. It's got to stay nice and shiny.
I'll hold you to that next week.
We got to watch out for clean Coke bottles, basically, I think is the big thing. Is Zach Novak, Segment 1 champion of the Coke Series. We turn our attention to RFK's Colin Bowden. Colin putting up a P3 tonight, one of his best runs in a long, long time. So, Colin, how much time do you spend practicing? That's from KNova98 in our Twitch chat. But yeah, how much time do you spend practicing, getting ready to go for these races?
Oh man, most of the time these days, man, I'll just load in on. I'll try and do some Q practice about Monday, and then sometimes I'll get the race set, and then the warm up I'll do 10, 20 laps, get my feet wet, and say that's good enough. I mean, I'll never, ever be able to mind-numbingly do thousands and thousands of laps like these guys do. I jump in and go. I'm either going to figure it out or I'm not. We're professionals. We're supposed to be able to. I think yesterday, I did 100 laps for this one, though. I did 2 runs yesterday, so kind of skewed it up a little bit, but nothing. But those were with people. That wasn't by myself.
No, nothing a little bit crazy. I like it. Jacob.
Colin, has there been a race since you joined this series that you haven't been having fun at this point? I mean, I feel like every time we get you in one of these, the energy level is, if not off the charts, at least close to it. I mean, this is all fun, at least until it all goes sideways, right?
Well, it's fun when you run like that. When you're back there running 30th, that makes you want to beat your head against the wall sometimes, man. I mean, The start of the year I don't think I've run outside the top 30, hardly any, and that's not very fun at all. But when you run like this and just pull the stickers off everyone's doors when you go by them, man, that was a hell of a time. I think if we could run, so apparently I'm really good at Rockingham. I'm damn good at Darlington. If we could run Rockingham, Darlington, and throw in Talladega about 4 times, there ain't no telling how many of these championships I'd probably win.
Quick question from Twitch chat. Somebody you might be familiar with, Colin. eracer_GG. Where was all this speed when you were racing for us?
They were making some budget cuts. They didn't give me equipment I need. I had Rick Ware equipment out there, so I was struggling a little bit. Now we got this RFK equipment, top of the line. You know, we're able to. I was trying my damnedest for them. I really was. I was tongue hanging out, trying to do the best I could. But no offense to them either. Them guys were a hell of a time to be with too. Those was a fun couple of years racing with them.
Hey, Colin, if it makes you feel any better, like you alluded to right after the race, you are no longer P last in points. We are going to your favorite racetrack, by the way. Where is the confidence meter pegged? Can we take the pencil and write in Colin Bowden right now for Talladega in 2 weeks? Is that
yeah.
shooting too high?
Oh yeah, there's a damn good chance I might lead every lap here. I mean, before tonight, you know, I mean, I'm the oldest guy in this series, so I'm teetering on retirement basically every week at this point because the oldest guy always falls out. Hard to run with these kids. If you run like that, man, they better do about 2,000 more laps during the week if they're gonna run with this old dog right here. But Tega, I love Talladega so much. I know a bunch of people don't like doing restricted plate races, but man, I grin ear to ear when I see them tracks on the schedule. I love them so much. I love them a little less because they changed the draft model and they messed it up a little bit, but it's still a very fun time. I enjoy it.
Colin, you look like a completely different driver out there. Are you sure, like, were we at a super speedway tonight? But anyway, lap 56 though, I gotta go back to that. You pass Steven Wilson and you key up on the mic and you say, "New sheriff in town." What was that all about?
Oh man, me and Steven text all the time about sports bets or whatnot. You know, we're always talking about gambling and we've gone on a couple race trips together. It was just poking fun at him, you know, because he wins every race these days. I said, man, this is what it's like to feel fast and be able to do whatever you want and not hurt tires. I said, this is the damnedest feeling ever. So I just had to let him know, be like, hey man, Papaw still got it.
All right, Colin, I know you're going to be watching the golf a whole bunch this weekend.
Yeah.
You're locked in. You got it on the TV in the background. So I got to ask you, what's the menu for your Champions Dinner, and where's the Coke going into it?
The dinner menu, man. It's gotta have a good side to start with, like my favorite bar, local water and hole. We have this like beautiful buffalo chicken dip. I mean, it's fantastic. So you got to start with that. Probably a good steak, maybe a nice burger. You got to be washing it down with natural lights and Jack and Coca-Colas. Coca-Cola is incredible with Jack Daniels. So you mix all that together, have a nice what's we're looking for, Niption, whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then dessert, I guess you gotta have some sugar cookies. I do enjoy good sugar cookies, but if you drink enough, you don't make it to dessert, which is usually what happens.
Colin, it's been always nice chatting to you. We got one more from the Twitch chat from MLG_light. And I think it also brings to light with you being one of, if not the best haircut on the circuit. Just from him, what does the mullet give you a better arrow on the boards?
Oh, absolutely. You put this thing up top and that thing gets in the air and it's right next to the wall. It's selling t-shirts and stealing girlfriends, man. It's all over.
That's a man whose hair I don't want to compete with, Keenan, because I'm losing that battle.
It's between him and Casey, I think, for two very different reasons.
No, it is not between me and Casey. Are you? Absolutely not. It's between me and nobody. Like they're all racing for second place with that. It ain't even close.
That's got to be a T-shirt, I think, at some point. But we'll leave that one for later. We'll roll on to the man who finished in 4th. Pressburg, Indiana's Michael Guest. Michael, big run for you this evening. What was it about the Rock that just sort of clicked tonight for you?
Yeah, we had a longer race for once. I mean, I don't think the series needs to be having short races. I think it's a terrible idea, and I think we don't produce the show that we do when we have a longer race. And we finally get one just like last year at Charlotte, and I made the most of it. Actually got a long run in, and we didn't wreck each other just constantly. And I think tonight was a good reason why we should have longer races consistently throughout the year.
How about it? Big time statement made here tonight by Michael Guest. Justin Melillo, how about you? What are you thinking here? Or no? Nothing? You got nothing? What about Jacob? Jacob, surely you have something. Jacob, you always have something.
I've always got something. Michael, by far your best finish of the season. You talked about just now, we need to go back to longer races. That's what you came into this series with when you were first starting. I mean, expand on that a little bit. What is it about the longer races that suits you and you feel like suits this series?
Yeah, I mean, we're racing for a lot of money, and we have these 50, 60, 70 lap races where we're just wrecking each other. Nobody can do anything unless you're Steven or Tucker qualifying in the top 2 or 3. It's a lottery. I mean, I'm putting my ball into the lottery case and just pulling my position out every week. It's not. I feel like there's been no, again, unless you're Steven or Tucker racing for the lead where you're kind of out of the mess, everyone else is just kind of at the mercy of if you get lucky. This series shouldn't be about if you get lucky. It should be about tonight and having to, keep your tires on it and coming up with a good strategy, but there's none of that right now in the series, and I think we all voice that a lot, but for some reason it just doesn't change. So either way, I'm happy that we get it a little bit now. Tonight, Charlotte this year, in a couple weeks. Those are the fun races. Those are the ones to look forward to.
Michael, a question again from Twitch chat. Again, if you were watching, you want to submit questions to these drivers, it's an open forum. From a name you might recognize, Violin Panda, how does it feel to have the best Penske team on the grid?
Oh, yeah. Well, she was a beauty tonight. Me and Malik were both shining up there. Probably switch back to the white one next week, but for the Super Speedway. But I love this scheme. That's easily the best looking car I've had since I've started. So I've been racing constantly in just the official series just so I can look at it.
How about it? Michael, we've been asking drivers tonight one sort of common question, because big time golf tournament going on into the weekend, and they do a Champions Dinner on this night each year, every Tuesday. So what is the menu for your Champions Dinner, and where does the Coca-Cola fit into that menu?
Oh, we always got a pizza next to us. So definitely take that. And instead of, still got this one over here. So it'd fit right there with it. This past week we actually had a tornado that landed like right next to me, and my house was flooded. So I'm really happy that I was able to do this race to begin with. Luckily it didn't hit harder, and in a pretty good mood tonight, that's for sure.
Well, hopefully you get the opportunity to get things cleaned up and everything's okay, and glad that you're okay too, most importantly, and we'll look forward to seeing you at Talladega. There's Michael Guest, who comes home in the 4th position. We move on to our top finishing rookie in tonight's race out of Calgary, Alberta, Connor Yarashak. And Connor, for as much as you've been pretty vocal, especially on social, about how you feel like you've had more speed than the last 2 weeks have indicated, to finally get a run that matches what you feel like you've had in you, how satisfying is that? I think you're muted, by the way.
Sorry about that. It's definitely satisfying to finally get a good finish. But quite honestly, I do think it could have been a lot better. I don't know what we're doing, lap 0 of a 200-lap race, and we're wrecking on the restart. So that put me way behind the 8 ball early, and then had a really nice first run and made up a bunch of spots that put me in position, then got that yellow in the top 10. And then we kind of just made a bad adjustment, and then I really struggled that second run and just kind of slowly slipped back. And then we went to the third run and we underfueled, and I was like 5 laps short on fuel, so I had to clutch the whole last run from start to finish. So I think possibly P6 was on the table, but just happy to finally finish one of these races.
Connor, it's always good seeing another Canuck out there, bud. I know the Flames probably not going to go that far this year, so going into playoffs for the NHL, Canadian to Canadian, who do you got this year and why?
For a Canadian team?
You could pick whoever, but, we got some options this year.
We'll go controversial. We're going to say the Leafs are going to do something this year.
I mean, it would be the first time. It
sure would.
I mean, I'm a little bit biased to see the Senators do literally anything, but it could be worse.
It definitely could be.
Connor, this has been a fun last 8 days for you. You stole the show in the College Series race a week ago. Come get a top 10 out of tonight. Is the confidence for you as high as it's been all season right now?
I definitely would say that, and there's definitely some big races coming up, so it's nice to kind of get hot at the right time with the finale, and there's big money on the line there, and then Talladega, which I'm definitely looking forward to that. I've kind of got in the headspace now where on these plate races I don't even so much worry about getting wrecked. I just you can only control what you can control, so you might as well just go have a good time and see where you end up.
How many notifications did you have on your phone after the 3 wide where did he come from moment in the College Series last week? I'm curious.
I definitely got a lot more than I thought I would, especially compared to my contender win. I thought I got quite a few congratulations for that, but then obviously I think that was a little more high profile of a finish, so people definitely reached out.
So when you got to class the next day after the win, normally we talk about the concept of a big man on campus, but were you the big dino on campus, I guess, after that? Oh, my God.
Yeah, quite a few of my close friends knew about it, so it was nice to have a laugh with them about the finish because, they don't know a ton about NASCAR, but it was definitely a cool one that, even the average fan could see and think, wow, that's pretty cool. So it was nice to share a laugh about it.
Keaton, are you alive over there?
Yeah, I wasn't ready for the dino comment. You got me.
I mean, he goes to, his mascot is the Dinos. It's the University of Calgary Dinos. What is a better mascot than that out there? There are a few that I can think of, but not many.
I mean, you raise a great point, and that's what Alberta's known for, too. That's another one thing that I learned here in the East Coast. Connor, I don't know, maybe if you're too young for this. Are you a Letterkenny man or a Trailer Park Boys man?
Oh, probably. I don't even know Letterkenny, so I'm gonna go Trailer Park. I've watched a little bit of that, actually. but not much for sure.
Fair. Justin, you got something. You always have something in that brain of yours.
Well, I just wanna go back to the college years. I saw your paint scheme. What was the inspiration behind your paint scheme contest entry for the University of Calgary that you're going to be racing in the championship race next week?
That paint scheme's awesome. I mean, Cosman always does like amazing work, so shout out to him. And I just told him focus on the dinosaur, maybe have some teeth or something on it, and I let him take the reins from there. And I mean, I think it turned out awesome. So I'm not sure how the contest works, but I definitely think we're the front runner favorite for it.
I love it. Also, Connor, we've been asking everybody the same question. Big golf tournament going on down in Georgia this week. They always have a champions dinner for the most recent champion on the Tuesday before. So for you, what's on your champions dinner menu and where are you fitting the Coca-Cola into it?
I mean, I think for a champions dinner, you'd have to go for a nice steak of some sort. And then for the Coke, I think maybe like a milkshake or a sundae in the end. That would be a nice compliment for the Coke.
Like a Coke float, maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I like it. Keaton, what are you thinking? Coke float? I like that. That's unique. That's new.
Yeah, again, not to keep shoehorning it in, but I think the real Canadian thing would be an A&W root beer float. But hey, you take what we can
absolutely.
Get. That's my boy right there.
Is it A&W American? I thought there were.
Do you want to get in this conversation now?
I think it is.
Do you want to get in this argument right now?
We'll save it for later. Yeah, we got people to talk to, so we'll have it later once we get wrapped up. How about we turn to the hometown guy, Blake McCandless, Rockingham, not terribly far from his hometown of Raleigh, North Carolina. So, Blake, I think for you, this it wasn't even about the race. It was about running your grandfather's scheme and finally getting to race this track in a Coke Series setting. So was the experience tonight everything that you had sort of hoped and dreamed it would be?
Absolutely, James. Everything about this race was awesome. The length of it, the fact that we got to race and have a lot of give and take, tire wear, strategy. It's my kind of race. I'm not so good at hot lapping and doing all of those things, but yeah, it was set up for us perfectly. So yeah, I was really thrilled just to be able to run Rockingham. I've been looking forward to it since the beginning of the year, and to kind of get our first Coke race under our belt where we did everything we wanted to do. We didn't qualify as well as I would have liked. I kind of missed the bottom in 1 and 2, but again, guys were even having to search, like, do I run the bottom or do I run the top in qualifying? There's so many dynamics tonight, and I think that plays to my strengths, and we got our first solid run. Just missed out on the top 10. Wish we would have had that, but still was really pleased with it.
Blake, I mean, for those who know, in the broadcast booth for the last year, you have been pounding at the pavement, the ceiling, the brick, whatever you can to have some sort of lengthy race. So how big was the envelope that you slid into Drew Adamson's office?
I don't know about that. I think there's a lot of folks that go into making a lot of the decisions about this series and everything, and Drew has his hands full, I think, trying to make everything look and sound good here with the broadcast. But I'm whoever decided to put this on the schedule. I don't know who it was. I know Darlington and Rockingham were kind of, they took Darlington out and they put Rockingham in, and then they made this race length, and I just loved it. So whoever's responsible for that, cheers, my friend.
That sounds like a lawyer answer. We'll take that into consideration. James?
Blake, for those who don't know the story of the throwback scheme and the inspiration for the scheme you ran tonight, can you retell that story to those watching here on the Second Bus Race Report?
Yeah, so for everybody, I'm sure you probably heard it on the broadcast, but luckily this was or actually that's one of Ronnie's cars on a CUDA, but Herb McCandless was my grandfather. He was a drag racer in the 1960s and 70s, and he grinded away for a number of years running AHRA, NHRA, any event that he could, working with folks at Chrysler to try to make a career for himself. He was a hard worker. He was a great driver. His nickname was Mr. 4-Speed because he could shift a 4-speed and make it sound like an automatic. Actually, had a joke with my uncle earlier in this race. He said, for this race, you got to push the clutch down and you have to actually shift the gears tonight, which I know we're kind of in a different era now. Yeah, he worked his way to a team called Sox and Martin that was owned by Ronnie Sox and Buddy Martin, which at that time was probably one of the top, if not the top, drag racing team in the country, and was lucky enough to race for them in 1970 and throughout some of the early years in the 70s, and was able to win the first ever U.S. Nationals that the Pro Stock class featured in 1970. So this scheme, it's iconic. It's red, white, and blue. Mopar fans from around the world love to see whether a car that's painted like this or it's really special to be able to represent. My family's done a great job at preserving a lot of these paint schemes and a lot of these cars. Unfortunately, the 70 Duster actually doesn't exist. It was burned down in a towing accident. But a replica of it has been made, and especially my Uncle Mike, he does a tremendous job trying to preserve the history of Sox and Martin, and proud to represent them, and hopefully give their fans something to cheer about tonight, keeping it in the family.
Just a reminder to everybody out there, while we have Blake here, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And
yeah, go
Blake,
ahead.
As the very conveniently held can, I would say, what are we drinking tonight? And it's 10:30. Are we sure that's a good idea?
Yeah, I hadn't really had much before the race, and this can's very light, so I doubt I'm going to be sleeping much tonight. But this is Frozen Bombsicle. Tried and true, solid. I think this is the most, the most available flavor for C4 Energy. My favorite's the Hawaiian Punch so far. I haven't tried them all, but I'm trying to slowly work my way through them. But you know what? We're happy with the run tonight, and hopefully we can stay up and enjoy it, because I'm about halfway or about through with this can, so I'm probably not going to be sleeping much in a few hours.
Good news for you, Blake, is you've got about 2 weeks to catch up on sleep before Talladega. But I'll digress. I am curious though. As soon as Rock was on the schedule and you knew what was coming, I mean, was the play to run your granddad's scheme as the throwback? I mean, was that kind of from day one we wanted to do this, or was this a lot quicker pull together than people think?
So this was something that I've eyed, because I've run throwback schemes before for my grandfather in the different firecracker races that have been run over the years, which shout out to eRacer. The best throwback would be for us to run the firecracker again. Just going to throw that out there. But yeah, this was something that I had wanted in my mind for a long time. But again, you never know how these things are going to work with partners and everything. But I can't thank C4 Energy enough, because when I approached them with this idea probably 2 months ago or so, when I was in a meeting with them, they said with the throwback, you can do what you want. You can change the font. You can make it however you want to replicate it as close as possible to work with some great people. Because, I mean, honestly, we didn't have a huge C4 Energy logo on the car, but they were very supportive of trying to replicate the real scheme as much as possible. So can't thank them enough for that. And then Junior Motorsports for, allowing us to be really creative with it. That's one of the cool things about JRM, is that Dale personally approves the schemes that we get to run, and he oversees it. And I guess it was a good-looking car. I knew it was a good-looking car, and having the white 8 with the red in the background, I don't know, there's just something about it that fit, despite the fact it was from a Plymouth Duster. So it was something that was in the works for a long time, but definitely when Rockingham was on the schedule, it's around Throwback Weekend, it's my best track. It was just a match made in heaven. I may have to run the scheme some more this year if I'm going to run this well in it.
Do it.
I'd love to. I like that thought a lot. We got a question in chat from Zach Sprouse, who's competed in the College Series, also runs Virginia Mini Cups in real life. And Zach asked, if you could have one opportunity in a top NASCAR series, would you rather have a shot at broadcasting it, announcing it, or driving it?
I had the opportunity to run a limited late model a couple of years ago, and it was a thrilling experience. I had more fun than I've ever had in my life driving that thing, even if it was only for 40 laps around Hickory. But you know what? I got to say one thing: there's a lot less stress in the broadcast booth, and it's something that I equally enjoy the competitive aspect of driving in this series. I'm glad I've made the jump over, because I'm having a hell of a time doing it. But as far as, top level NASCAR, running in Cup or running in Xfinity, I don't know. There's something about the broadcast booth that I would probably prefer, just because, I mean, you get to that level, it's kind of business here. It's not meant to be fun. It's competitive. And it's the same thing in real life NASCAR. It's cutthroat. Those guys, they're there to, put food on the table, and they're there to win races. And being a broadcaster, there's something that's a little bit more relaxing about it. You still have a job to do, of course. But I'd probably say broadcasting. If I, top 3 series in NASCAR is probably what I would prefer.
Fair, very fair answer. Also, question of the night for everybody. We've been asking this to all our drivers. Big golf tournament going on down in Georgia this weekend. They had their Champions Dinner on the Tuesday night before. So, question for you. What is on your Champions Dinner menu, and how are you working Coke and C4 into it?
Let's see. Definitely my... that's a good question. My ideal dinner is a ribeye. I mean, you got to have that in there. If there's a way I could work like a mushroom risotto or something, I had one on a cruise ship, and it was probably the best tasting food I've ever had in my life.
All right, Mr. Ramsey.
So that wouldn't be a bad one. But yeah, I'm a big steak person. So give me a nice cut of ribeye, medium rare to rare. I'm good with either one, and that's definitely my go-to dinner, I would say, in a setting like that.
I just want to make the point, we're going to get Justin in here for a question, but this is a man who also I have seen order just the beef patties from McDonald's for food before. So that love for beef is definitely well-founded and well-documented. So we'll roll for that. Justin, what you got?
I don't know if I could follow up that, but first of all, the world does need more drag racing themed throwbacks. So thank you, Blake, for giving that. to us tonight. But I just got one question for you. I know you were giving me a little bit of what earlier in the season for not being on this list, but do you think you're going to be on the power rankings for the for Talladega in 2 weeks?
Well, I mean, I haven't given you much of a reason to put me on there recently. Again, I think this is a sign of what I can do if we get these races, these type of races that play out, and even I think NFR, I think we missed it a little bit. I don't think we had quite the 40 to 50 lap long run dig, that dead zone, and some of these guys had obviously the Altus guys were lights out, and a lot of them didn't have strategy work out in their favor, but Tucker was able to win. So I haven't given people a lot of reason to believe in me to put me in the top 20 because I qualify dead last every week, and honestly this week wasn't much better. But I truly think we have the fastest cars pretty much every week. And luckily I can drive them, I think, very well in these races. So I think it's gonna be close. Like maybe you can put me 20th or in a tie or something, and then maybe we go out at Dega and have a good run, especially before the stretch coming up. Because I would say kind of after Kansas, Charlotte, some of those tracks. There's some tracks in the summer I'm looking at, like Nashville, Chicago, who knows. So if you are going to put me in the power rankings, do it now, because opportunity may run out later in the year.
We'll see how the math works out on that. Thanks.
I love that we touched on this a little bit before, Blake, that you can bring your driving experience into your commentating, but we can bring your broadcasting experience into your Coke Series career. Why do you think we want to see the side of your face so badly when you have this big, beautiful smile that we could look at instead from the front of your face?
It's just this rig is so different than my previous setup, and trying to find a way to mount, because I use my iPhone. I don't want to use my computer to run the game, to stream, and to run Zoom, because that's just asking a lot. I know I have a new PC with this setup and everything, but that's asking a lot of it. And these next gen cars use up a lot of, especially these new tracks. The game looks fantastic, but it uses up a lot of your CPU. So I've tried to find a way to mount a phone somewhere around this rig that might make sense. But this is the best of what I got now, so I'll try to find a way to maybe get a better view, but just kind of, you could see kind of the way the monitors wrap around me, and I'm kind of in the corner of the room here. It's a little bit harder to do than probably I would have liked, so I have to put some more thought into it, but the side, I hope the side shot, ain't too bad either.
If anyone's got some rolls of tape in the North Carolina area, you head over to Blake McCandless' house, you can get something figured out.
Maybe.
The era or the area, Keenan?
That's funny. I get it.
Hey, I like a North Carolina era. I'm not going to be mad about that. I know Dreamville counts as that, but that's pretty close, right? Mostly that's Raleigh, near Blake's neck of the woods. But yeah, no, I think Keenan, we've had a lot of fun tonight, haven't we? It's been neat to hear what these drivers have to say. It's been neat to get their perspectives, and Blake, thanks for sharing your perspective as well. Been cool.
Absolutely. Really appreciate C4 Energy for making this whole thing possible and helping us run this paint scheme. We're going to go back to our traditional bright yellow, vibrant card. Not sure if we're going to work in some more flavors. We'll see how that plays out. But thanks to them, and thanks to Steve and Steph and everybody at Junior Motorsports. They've been tremendous to work with. And hopefully this is a sign of things to come. I don't know where I'm at in the points after this, but hopefully we're in the top 20. And appreciate you guys watching along.
Well, big thanks to Blake for his time on the Sunoco Post-Race Report. A big thanks to our team here that helped make it possible. Jacob Seelman, Justin Malillo, Keenan Goosen, and a big thanks to all of you for watching along. A reminder that we've got 2 races coming up over the next 2 weeks. Next week, it's the eNASCAR College iRacing Series Championship from Homestead Miami Speedway. The top 25 in points of advance. They're going to try and go after a significant chunk of scholarship money. That broadcast will come your way on eNASCAR.com/live next Tuesday night, April 15th, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then 2 weeks from tonight, it is 1-800-GO-TO-DEGA. Talladega Super Speedway is the next stop for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. That broadcast will come your way 8 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, April 22nd. Of course, Countdown to Green you can watch at 7:30 p.m. And then we'll have the Sunoco Post-Race Report after that. And all of that you can see on eNASCAR.com/live. For Drew Adamson and our production team at iRacing, and for the Sunoco post-race report team, my partner Keenan Goosen, I'm James Pike. Thanks so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. We'll see you 1 week from tonight for the College Series Championship from Homestead, Miami.